Dear colleagues, just a few technical announcements before formally kick-off. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and broadcasted live on the OSCE's social media platforms and website. Simultaneous interpretation into all 6 OSCE languages is provided for this meeting. Kindly note that an advanced list of speakers for each agenda item has been received, and that in accordance with Rule 27, I will determine the order in which our members will be invited to speak. I kindly ask all speakers to limit their interventions to 2 minutes during the debate. Please also pay attention to the timer which will be visible on the screens, thereby enabling a sound exchange of ideas and the timely conclusion of our meeting by 6 p.m. Without further delay, I will proceed with our agenda. The draft agenda of this meeting has been circulated. As we heard no objections, then the agenda shall be considered adopted. Thank you very much. According to our agenda, item number 2, I will make opening remarks as a chair of the committee. So, dear colleagues, as we gather today, we find ourselves at a crossroads of global challenges that demand our collective attention. On the one hand, the situation in Ukraine continues to be a source of deep concern. With this unprovoked, unjustified, and totally illegal war against Ukraine entering its 3rd year, causing profound humanitarian and geopolitical repercussions. We already had the opportunity to duly explore the social, economic, and environmental impact of this absurd war in several of our previous sessions. We all hope this war will end soon, and we stand ready to help rebuild a more secure, interconnected, and greener Ukraine. On the other hand, the impact of climate change is becoming more severe with each passing day. Now more than ever, there is a strong need for transitioning to greener and eco-friendly practices in all sectors, including in energy production, transportation, waste management, and much more. Last December, I personally participated in the 23rd meeting of the contracting party to the Barcelona Convention in Portugal, where I emphasized the OSCE's determination to inject a strong parliamentary perspective in global efforts to protect our ecosystems and promote green development, thus ensuring that our citizens' concerns are duly heard at the highest levels. The upcoming UN International Climate Conference, COP29, to be hosted by my home country, Azerbaijan, from 11th November to 24th, should represent a valuable opportunity to further contribute to global efforts in effectively addressing environmental challenges and fostering sustainable development. I look forward to a strong OSCE contribution in Baku. Furthermore, the importance of connectivity cannot be overstated. I welcome the recent agreement between the EU and the Central Asian countries to develop the Trans-Caspian Transport Corridor. This corridor represents a significant step towards enhancing sustainable transport connections between Europe and Central Asia, which is a critical component of collective security. Dear colleagues, now looking at our program, soon we will be hearing from Ms. Gudrun Kugler, who will highlight her ideas for the report to be adopted at the next annual session in Bucharest. We will also listen carefully to Ambassador Florian Raunuk, Chairperson of the OSCE Economic and Environmental Committee, and Ambassador Bakit Yusupov, Coordinator of OSCE Economic and Environmental Activities, who will share their plans for 2024. A focused debate on how to strengthen our cooperation in addressing economic and environmental challenges will close the first part of our agenda. I am proud to chair a committee that interlinks science and technology with economic development, green transition, and environmental security. In doing so, we always strive to focus on top priorities for our citizens while being forward-looking and constructive. Hence, we have placed a special focus this year on the impact of artificial intelligence. By the way, I want to also inform you that before, after annual session, after our committee members or the officials being elected, we usually have the bureau meeting where we discuss the priority of the committee. We did the same in September and agreed that to put the artificial intelligence as one of the priority topics on the agenda of our committee. I'm very glad that we could achieve to put it in our agenda, and we will have, I hope that we will have very interesting discussions in a while. Our world is witnessing unprecedented acceleration in the development and deployment of AI technologies. These advancements hold immense potential to reshape our societies, economies, and security landscapes. However, with great innovation comes great responsibility. And it is our duty as representatives of the people to navigate the ethical, legal, and security dimensions of AI with caution and foresight. Today's special debate on AI is a testament to our commitment to staying ahead of a curve, anticipating the challenges and harnessing the opportunities that this rapidly evolving field presents. We are therefore privileged to be joined by distinguished experts, each offering unique insights into the multifaceted world of AI. So I am very pleased that in our today's special debate on artificial intelligence, a technological breakthrough with security implications, we have three outstanding guest speakers. Mr. Nicholas Ott, Senior Manager of Government Affairs at Microsoft, Dr. Jean-Marc Rickley, Head of the Global and Emerging Risk at the Geneva Center for Security Policy, and Dr. Isabel Klaus, co-founder and Managing Director of Thinkers, will shed light on the transformative potential of AI across various sectors and the implications for our societies. I sincerely thank all of you, dear rapporteur, dear guest speakers, for joining us in person. As our deliberation today will shape the trajectory of our future engagement in this complex field, I urge all members to contribute to this timely special debate. Finally, I am pleased to announce that bringing continuity to our efforts, the Portuguese delegation, a Portuguese parliament, will organize an OSCE conference on security in the age of artificial intelligence in Lisbon on 20 May 2024. The preliminary program and practical information of the conference will be circulated in due course. To conclude, I am honored that our committee has become a privileged platform where we can first promote a greater understanding of pivotal economic and environmental security developments, second, exchange relevant experience, and third, develop innovative and very informed policy guidance that can inspire our collective efforts. Thank you, dear colleagues, for your attention. Now, moving immediately to the next agenda item, I will now give the floor to our rapporteur, Ms. Gudrun Kudler, who will share her views and ideas, as I said, for the upcoming annual session in Bucharest. You have the floor, dear Gudrun, but before giving the floor, I will say that we have a good cooperation inside of our bureau, and I am very grateful that Gudrun always being very active and bringing some new ideas to the agenda of the committee. I hope that this time will not be exception. Please, Gudrun, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Distinguished panel, ladies and gentlemen, as Austrian, I am very happy to welcome all of you to Vienna, and it's a great honor that you are here. And also a great honor that you will be seeing our newly renovated parliament this evening when the president invites to a reception. The second committee in its focus is becoming more and more key. Obviously, we know peace and security are prerequisites for a thriving economy, innovation in science and technology, and a sustainable approach for the environment. And this is why it is so horrifying that in the 21st century, again, in Europe, we are confronted with war crimes, torture, executions, displacements, and also environmental war crimes. And I am convinced that OSCE and OSCE are not less, but more needed in difficult times. And we have talked a lot about the death of Alexei Navalny. I would like to remind you that today is 81 years of the execution of Hans and Sophie Scholl and Christoph Probst, who were resistance fighters against the Nazi regime, and they were executed today 81 years ago. And Sophie Scholl was 21 years old when she was executed. And she knew what danger she was getting into. And in difficult times, sometimes life asks us to be heroes. And as members of parliament, we play crucial roles in changes in our societies. And for us, these examples are key in a very special way. And I think that all of us need to take courage by looking at the courage of such people, Navalny and many other heroes that we can learn from. Now, this morning, Minister Borg said the role of parliamentarians, it is to be links to the people. And when we do our work in our committees, we focus on issues, but always under the lens of what does it mean for parliamentarians. And this is why I think what OSCE does is so crucial. We look for understanding the needs of the people, and we bring necessary changes to the institutional level. And we do it not only nationally, but we do it in an international and regional manner, and this is why we are all here today. This being said, this is how I try to do my work as rapporteur. And I've worked intensely on the contents of the issues of the second committee in the last months. And I would like to highlight only a few of the issues that I was working on, not all of them for time reasons, just to give you a direction, but also to give you the opportunity to report back to me what you think about these things and others in a way to inspire you to tell me what you think so that I can take your thoughts into my report and the draft resolution. I would like to focus first on two aspects regarding war crimes. One is that the International Criminal Court recognizes environmental war crimes as war crime. And I don't think that as parliamentarians we talk enough about that. We had just before the Vancouver meeting, the destruction of the Kakhovka Dam. This is an environmental war crime. And I think it's important that in our parliaments we highlight that and talk a lot more about it. Second aspect, we do not have a legally binding international document on artificial intelligence in lethal weapons, lethal autonomous weapons. And you know, when I talked to our Vice Chair, Artur Gerasimov, he said to me, good that we talk about artificial intelligence in the second committee and the focus for the entire winter meeting. That's very important, because imagine what artificial intelligence can do to Ukraine. And he mentioned two aspects. He said one is the drones that fly around and automatically spot people and kill them. And the other thing is the danger of misinformation and deep fakes. And that is dangerous for everyone. And I think it'd be absolutely meaningful to discuss how to get to a legally binding convention. And I'm very glad to say that the Austrian Foreign Ministry is putting on an expert conference in about 2 months' time here in this very place to talk about how to go ahead. And it is important that with artificial intelligence, we do not enter an arms race, as we have seen in history. And it's also important that within weapons, artificial intelligence will always have a means to have a clear distinction between civilians and combatants, and that they recognize surrender. I know that the Russian troops did not recognize surrender in Avdiivka, but if we have artificial intelligence in weapons, this must be something that we need to take care of. And that there's always a final human decision-making. Now, we just had over lunch the Migration Committee, and we talked about human trafficking. And even in human trafficking, artificial intelligence plays a role, because we know that up to 80% of perpetrators, traffickers, find their victims online through technology, and a lot of exploitation is taking place also online through technology. And in this sense, it makes it's meaningful that our parliaments look into investing, building artificial intelligence-backed tools to actually find the perpetrators and rescue the victims, right? So all of these aspects of artificial intelligence, it might make sense for OSCE to think about an ad hoc committee on the advancements in AI and technology, maybe something we should be talking about as well. And this evening at 8 o'clock in the Austrian Parliament, I am as a rapporteur proposing a side event showing a movie on the topic of AI. Many of you are registered, many thanks, in case you're interested tonight. Now, the issue of economy is also closely related to the issue of migration and of demographic developments. And our region is going through a heavy demographic change, and parliaments need to accompany transition in an orderly and scientifically attended manner. I don't think we talk enough about it. This ranges from policies that encourage families to have more children, I'm sorry to say it so bluntly, but also how to deal with the issue of longer life and making sure that there is quality of life in old age. And there's also the issue of the right to participation in society, goods and services without digital means, also at an older age. That's things that parliaments could take up to answer current and coming needs. Now, migration is a driving force of prosperity, but we have to guard ourselves against uncontrolled and illegal migration, which could have destabilizing effects. And I just want to draw your attention that in many European capitals, we had pro-Hamas manifestations after October 7. I warn against people drain and brain drain within the OSCE region from east to west. And I also warn that we will not give in to the temptation of trying to keep the Ukrainian refugees in our countries on the long run in order not to prevent the rebuilding of Ukraine. And if you allow me to say one last thought, in some parts of the OSCE region, we see a deindustrialization, and that is very dangerous. And we also see a growing dependency on large single players such as China. That is also dangerous. So I advocate in my report, and I hope to also have your support in these topics, that the OSCE region strengthens its self-sufficiency regarding vital products, including medicine, that the OSCE region manages to diversify our access to raw materials and become maybe a bit more independent from China, and that we really work together on being a business and industry hub, attractive, innovative, uncomplicated, and offering the possibility of connecting well to each other cross-border. Being a hub, I think that this is absolutely key for the future of our countries and societies. Now, this was just a few things that I'm taking up in my reports that I'm preparing for the draft resolution. Today's session is dedicated to all of us listening to our experts, to all of us exchanging views. I will be paying careful attention to everything you say. I will be taking notes, and I have 2 assistants here today who do the same, so that we can incorporate your thoughts into our work. And please allow me to end by thanking our team for the second committee, which, as our chair has already said, is a team that works together so well on the basis of friendship, going deep into the topics. I would like to thank our chair, Asa Guliev, and our vice chair, Artur Gerasimov, and our OSCE PA Secretariat staff was led by Marco Bonabello for the great cooperation, and I'm looking forward to our discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, dear Kugler, for your excellent presentation and for the good word that you said about the particularly International Secretariat that based in Vienna. It is really good to see how our team is being able to to work together for the best interest of the assembly. But also I want to thank for the presentation, for the thoughts, for the direction that you gave us. And I hope that our colleagues will be enough proactive in putting their ideas, their proposals, because really, as you said, we need to have some close cooperation, and the report that you are going to prepare to submit to Bucharest annual session is pretty much important. So, dear colleagues, as you know, the winter meeting is remarkable to facilitate our interaction with the executive branch of OSCE, and this is why we will start now listening the important topics and the important presentation from our executive branch representative. And I would say that our committee really enjoys excellent cooperation with the executive branch, with the committee of OSCE for economic cooperation. And also, of course, we have, as I said, very capable team in Vienna who tries to, let's say, bring us together and to create a sort of bridge between our two institutions. And so, Marco and other colleagues, thank you very much again for your great job. And this session also, as I said, will not be exception. And I would now like to welcome Ambassador Florian Raunl, who is the chairperson of the OSCE Economic and Environmental Committee and permanent representative of Austria to the OSCE. So, Mr. Ambassador, welcome you, and thank you for your availability. Please, you have the floor.
Yeah, Chair, thank you very much for your invitation, and that I have the honor also this year to present our forthcoming program under the Maltese chairpersonship. Let me thank first Malta's OSCE chairpersonship 2024 for the confidence expressed by entrusting me with the role as the committee chair also for another year. I would also like to take the opportunity to present my sincere thanks to North Macedonia's OSCE chairpersonship last year for its devoted work, the great cooperation, and valuable efforts undertaken in the second dimension during an utmost challenging time for the entire organization. We were also very pleased that some of the thematic priorities of last year's Economic and Environmental Committee cycle were incorporated in the agenda of last year's Economic and Environmental Dimension implementation meeting, which has been the only major mandated event within the three dimensions, facilitated by the adoption of a substantive permanent council draft decision. Ladies and gentlemen, Saturday marks 2 years since the beginning of Russia's unprovoked aggression against Ukraine. Its devastating humanitarian, economic, and environmental consequences are undeniable, far-reaching, and unfortunately continue to unfold further day by day. It is therefore clear that Ukraine will remain at the core of our attention. In accordance with Malta's OSCE chairpersonship, we will address this cross-dimensional security issue with major implications for the entire OSCE area throughout all relevant fora and meetings. Through the focus on the timeliest and most pressing areas within our thematic domain, the second dimension is truly unique in providing not only the necessary thematic framework, but also the direly needed expertise. This year's work plan incorporates Malta's overarching priorities for the economic and environmental dimension, and therefore, together with Malta's second dimension unit, we have drafted a strongly integrated EEC working plan, reflecting upon the importance of balancing economic and environmental topics, as well as their respective most pressing issues for the OSCE region and beyond. With this, let me now share an overview of the upcoming activities for this year. Our work already started with an introductory EEC meeting on Monday, 19th February, which featured the presentation of Malta's chairpersonship priorities, as well as the draft work plan of the Office of the Coordinator of the OSCE and Economic Environmental Activities that we will hear a bit later about. The next EEC meeting on March will be devoted to empowering youth and women by bridging capacity gaps, particularly in digital skills, to harness transforming economies' full potential. And I think I'm here just following what Mrs. Kugler before said about artificial intelligence, and that we try to take it from the positive side, let's say, in order to strengthen the digital skills of youth and women in particular. Subsequently, while keeping a general balance between economic and environmental topics, the first thematic meetings will rather take an economic focus into account, with committee meetings revolving around topics like empowering youth and women by bridging capacity gaps, particularly in digital skills, that's what I said, combating corruption and asset recovery, promotion of economic development in the trade and transport sector, in both cases also strongly focusing on digital innovations and technologies. During the latter half of the year, we will then stress important security aspects related to the environment, strengthening biodiversity and food security, improving climate change resilience and environmental protection, as well as capacity building regarding disaster risk prevention and management. Unfortunately, it is obvious that many of these topics have gained even increased importance in recent times, particularly in light of the ongoing war of aggression in Ukraine and its devastating economic, environmental, and humanitarian consequences. To put our debates into a broader context, we also seek to keep these meetings engaging and grounded in reality, with speakers from a variety of backgrounds and from different sectors of society. We are thus looking to follow the quadruple helix approach, with the consideration of public sector, private sector, academia, and civil society, while trying to uphold a gender balance for the whole sum of the committee meetings. Additionally, representatives from the field operations and professionals involved in the OSCE project work will be given the opportunity to showcase the organization's invaluable impact on the ground. Mr. Chair, distinguished committee members, despite and in fact due to the dire security situation we are currently facing, I'm convinced that OSCE's second dimension, through its focus on the most pressing economic and environmental challenges, holds great value to foster meaningful dialogue amongst delegations on cross-cutting issues that are relevant for the security and stability in the entire OSCE region. In this endeavor, I look forward to closely cooperate with the Parliamentary Assembly, which may provide differentiated views and proposals to address transnational and transboundary threats, as well as credible solutions in trying to mitigate them. With this common objective in mind, I'm confident that we will find ways to increase existing synergies between our committees and broaden our cooperation even further. Mr. Chair, let me conclude by saying that the Second Dimension team and I stand ready to engage with you in a result-oriented manner that seeks to address common challenges while underlining our commitment to the economic and environmental dimension as an integral part of OSCE's comprehensive approach to security. Mr. Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, dear Ambassador, again, first of all, for your availability to be with us as we do it in every winter meeting, and of course, for your continued leadership in this field at a very challenging time for our organization. I also want to join you and say that, of course, our Parliamentary Assembly and particularly Second Dimension, Second Committee is also looking forward supporting your work also in the coming years. And thank you very much again for your interesting presentation. Dear colleagues, now I want to move on and also would like to give the floor to Ambassador Bakit Yusupov, the newly appointed coordinator of OSCE Economic and Environmental Activities. And I will say that, Mr. Ambassador, it was an exchange of opinion and ideas just before committee meeting. I wish all the best. I hope that we will have a good opportunity also to continue our close engagement and cooperation. So, Your Excellency, Mr. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Dear members of the Parliament Assembly, dear co-panelists, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to start by thanking Honorable Dr. Guliev for the kind invitation to deliver a speech in this room. It is indeed a distinct pleasure and honor to be in your midst and commence my public engagements as coordinator of the OSCE Economic and Environment Activities with an address to the Second Committee of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. I start my tenure at the helm of the OSCE with a strong commitment to cooperate closely and strengthen synergies with the Parliamentary Assembly. This certainly reflects how the office strives to work in full synergy with other secretariat departments, OSCE executive structures, institutions, and field operations, internal coordination, and firmly contribute to the Secretary General's whole of the OSCE approach. After all, we are part of the same family and share the same goals. Together, we endeavor to address effectively economic and environmental threats to security across the OSCE region in line with our respective mandates and complementary roles. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, from corruption to climate change, from environmental degradation to energy security, the magnitude of security threats facing our constituencies is enormous. The office boasts a solid track record of support to participating states to implement their OSCE commitments and address some of the most pressing security challenges in the second dimension. Building on our extensive experience and responding to the needs expressed by participating states, we have put together a number of priorities that will be implemented during the course of the year. Let me give a brief overview of what is in our pipeline for 2024. On good economic governance, the office will complement existing projects with new initiatives designed to combat corruption and money laundering through a more proactive and coordinated approach. We will work towards the establishment of an anti-corruption focal points network to improve information sharing, OSCE-wide coordination, and identify synergies for joint activities. The OSCE Parliamentary Assembly is also invited to join. Mindful of the changes and solutions related to the use of digital technologies in illicit activities, the OSCE will facilitate the exchange of best practices among participating states and foster a collaborative approach to mitigate the money laundering risks of virtual assets. Crimes involving cryptocurrencies now amounts to roughly $25 billion globally, according to an estimate provided by Chain Analysis, a leading crypto analytic company. The magnitude of the phenomenon calls for a robust international response. This is why our work to combat corruption and mitigate the money laundering risks of virtual assets has been expanded to include 11 countries in Central Asia, Eastern Europe, and South Caucasus. Particular attention will be dedicated to tailor-made activities on the use of open data, e-governance digital services, and innovative digital tools to improve public sector integrity and enhance the accountability of national authorities. Of course, gender mainstreaming engagement of youth will remain a priority. Honorable members of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, ladies and gentlemen, the office will continue promoting sustainable and inclusive economic development through connectivity, trade and transport facilitation, effective migration governance, and human capital development. Under our flagship project promoting green ports and connectivity in the Caspian Sea region, we will support ports in the Caspian and Black Sea to meet the green targets they have set to maintain their EcoPorts certifications. And we intend to roll out the prototype for improving digital exchange of trade data, which we have developed with the World Bank. We will discuss with all partners involved in and interested in the project further activities, building on the good results of the project. This year, we also count to finalize the feasibility study on the enhancement of the logistical capacity of the Termes Cargo Center in Uzbekistan. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, given the growing importance of the nexus between environment and security, the office will step up its efforts to foster transboundary water cooperation, promote sound management of hazardous, and strengthen disaster risk reduction. We are in the process of developing a new initiative focused on strengthening disaster risk reduction and management capacities in the OSCE region. The project will aim to enhance disaster risk assessment and preparedness of OSCE participating states through enhanced early warning systems, analysis of the disaster risk vulnerabilities, and the implementation of pilot activities. As requested by the host and donor countries, we will continue to implement the extra budgetary project, assessment of environmental impacts of the war against Ukraine, and options for remediation. The aim of this work is to contribute to the remediation of the damages and degradation of the environment in Ukraine in light of the war, in order to address and reduce future safety and security risks, with focus on disaster risk reduction, water management, environmental governance, and hazardous waste management. At the same time, we will continue supporting the Central Asian region to address the consequences of developments in Afghanistan following the Taliban takeover. As part of the RIA-OR program, response to the implications of Afghanistan for the OSCE region, launched by the Secretary General at the Stockholm Ministerial Conference in 2021, the office will implement activities to enhance the resilience of border communities in Central Asia to tackle challenges on natural resource management imposed by political insecurity in Afghanistan. Under the same framework, we will publish a comprehensive risk assessment of the security implications of Afghanistan's energy crisis for the Central Asian region. Honorable members of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, dear colleagues, let me now turn to climate change, perhaps the biggest crisis of our times. 2023 was a year of climate extremes globally in the OSCE area. The good news is that we at the OSCE are not standing idly by in front of the climate emergency. In the follow-up to last year's high-level conference on climate change convened by the Secretary General, our work in this domain has gained new momentum. The recently established Climate and Security Repository Fund program is our newest tool to enhance cooperation among participating states to address climate-related security risks, particularly in shared climate and security hotspots. We will use this repository fund program to advance further our existing activities and mainstream climate-related considerations into other office projects and the OSCE works at large. In this context, the office intends to launch a new initiative on strengthening the evidence base on climate change and migration in Southeastern Europe. This project will serve, among others, to collect data on and thoroughly examine the effects of climate change on migration and displacement drivers, as well as the prevailing trends and patterns that impact Southeastern Europe. In light of the intractable nexus between climate change and water resources, we are working to expand the existing OSCE project on women, water management, and conflict prevention to integrate linkages to food security. The office will also expedite the implementation of another existing initiative that seeks to mitigate climate change threats to critical energy infrastructure. This year, we also plan to finalize risk assessment in 4 pilot regions, providing localized and energy sector-specific climate modeling and conducting workshops on integrating climate data into energy security and energy transition plans. Regarding the COP process, as you may know, OSCE has received observer status in 2023, and we already participated in COP28 with certain activities. This year, we will continue exploring further opportunities to engage in the next COP process in Azerbaijan and support regional dialogue and cooperation on climate change and security. Finally, dear participants, let me add that as in previous years, we will provide assistance, policy advice, and operational support to the current OSCE chair and the participating states in the framework of the main policy dialogue forum of the second dimension, namely the Economic and Environmental Forum, the Economic and Environmental Committee, and the Economic and Environmental Dimension Implementation Meeting. In this respect, I would like to encourage all participating states to engage constructively and in good faith with a view to adopt the PC decision on the theme, agenda, and modalities of the 31st OSCE Economic and Environmental Forum in a timely manner. Time is of the essence, not least because of the need to ensure the smooth conduct of the entire EEF cycle. By way of conclusion, I would like to express particular gratitude to our donor countries for the continued trust placed on the work of the office. Most of them are well represented here in this hall by the respective parliamentarians. Last but not least, I wish to thank the Vienna office of the Parliamentary Assembly and its staff for their excellent work and our long-standing fruitful cooperation. I thank you for your attention and wish you successful continuance of the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear Ambassador, for your interesting presentation. As I said before, you have newly appointed, but I think we will have a good opportunity to continue our cooperation in the year to come, and particularly as we discussed today, the COP29 is a good opportunity for us to boost our agenda as OSCE family. Thank you very much again. Dear colleagues, I now will open the debate among interested participants. I encourage everyone to be constructive, concise, and to the point. Please note that I intend to make full use of my prerogative under Rules 9 and 27 to ensure a meaningful and respectful debate. Dear colleagues, 22 committee members have asked to speak under this agenda item. I decided to allot 2 minutes for each intervention. We should finish this debate by 4:40 in order to leave the more space, more room for the special debates, which will be about the artificial intelligence. So, dear colleagues, I also want to let you know that the countdown visible on the screen, which will help you manage your speaking time. Once it becomes red, please conclude. So, first in my list, I would like to invite Mr. Artur Gerasimov of Ukraine. Also, he is a vice chair of the second committee. Before giving the floor to him, I would like to thank again Artur for your great cooperation and the contribution, despite the difficulty and the security challenges you face now. But your personal intervention and your personal contribution is very much valued and very much appreciated. Please, Mr. Gerasimov, you have the floor.
Dear Azai, dear Gudrun, dear Marco, dear colleagues, first of all, thank you very much for all countries who are supporting Ukraine. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. And I can tell you for all the countries who are supporting aggressive countries, Ukraine will win and you will be destroyed. 10 years, 10 years. Now, since the beginning of the war, 10 years and 2 days, because the war started 20th of February, 2014. Full-scale invasion started 2 years ago. 10 years like 1 day. But unfortunately, more than 100,000 Ukrainians are killed, including civilians, many civilians. Just remember, Mariupol, Bucha, Irpin, Borodyanka, Izium, Bakhmut, Avdiivka. In all these cities, Kharkiv, Russians destroyed civilians. When we're speaking about the second committee, destroyed forests, tens of millions of tons additional emissions, destroyed schools, millions of refugees, inflation around the world because it's touched not only Ukraine, but many countries, food security. See what happened with food security, because Ukraine is one of the biggest producers of the food worldwide. About particular cases, but so-called, unfortunately, bright cases, Kakhovka water reservoir catastrophe and explosion. You remember what happened. It was a huge ecological catastrophe. And now I want to pay additional attention to one very particular case, Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. Almost 2 years, this nuclear power plant under occupation. That time it was under huge attack of Russian militaries. Russians, and it's proof facts, keep their military technique, their ammunition on the nuclear station. Can you imagine? This is the biggest in Europe station. In case something will happen, it will not be problem not of Ukraine, not only for the neighbors. It will be the problem for huge area. Let's remember Chernobyl, and let's remember other such an events. We always tell it about demilitarization of this power station, nuclear power station, nuclear. And also, I want to inform you that after catastrophe in Kakhovka power plant and Kakhovka water reservoir, exactly Zaporizhia nuclear power station is very big danger because exactly Kakhovka water reservoir was used for cooling the nuclear station. And now we can meet very big problems in that area. And last but not least, you know, a lot of Ukrainian human rights organizations collected reliable eyewitness accounts of the developments at this nuclear power station, which indicate that since the outset of the joint occupation by the Russian military and Rosatom of Energodar and this nuclear power plant, the Russian invasion forces have launched a systematic large-scale campaign of abductions, torture, and murder of nuclear power plant personnel and residents of Energodar. Energodar is the small city where families of this personnel live. And I can tell you that this huge program, these activists, they collected all these evidences. They created the report, and you can come for the table of Ukrainian delegation to me. This report is named In a Nuclear Prison, how Rosatom turned Europe's largest nuclear power plant into a torture chamber, and how can the world stop it. Please go and get these books. I will kindly appreciate. And the last but not least, all of us understand that Russia must be under strict sanctions. But Rosatom still is welcomed in many countries in Europe. They have contracts, they have money, and always remember, the money you are paying to Rosatom, they are using to buy new ammunition, new tanks, new artillery, new aircrafts. Please think about that. And Ukraine will work on the issue to sanction Rosatom managers, and to cancel all contracts and all contacts of our European colleagues with this organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear Artur. Thank you very much again for being with us. We fully understand what you said. It is very terrible to be witness what is going on in Ukraine. Dear colleagues, please note that the speaker list has already been closed. Please take into account that we have very limited time. Now, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Nodur Jumayev of Uzbekistan, and to be followed by Mr. Lloyd Doggett from United States of America. Mr. Jumayev, you have the floor, please. Good day, dear participants of the events. Today, we must acknowledge that humanity is confronting new challenges. As the world population on a continual rise and natural resources decreasing at an alarming rate, it's evident that this imbalance poses significant difficulties for countries worldwide. Among the countries of the world, Uzbekistan pays special attention to the development of the green economy as one of the priorities. The strategy for the transition to a green economy of Uzbekistan, and in order to strengthen the legal framework to protect the interests of consumers, was adopted for the period 2019-2030. A number of laws, international agreements, regulations, and resolutions aimed at future development of the industry have been enacted. Over the past 5 years, 21 agreements have been signed with international companies on the construction of solar and wind power plants with a total capacity of 7,047 megawatts, as well as contract for the transportation of produced electricity for the needs of 5 regions with a capacity of 2,030 megawatts. This investment project are being implemented by energy companies from Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, France, China, and Switzerland. The total cost of this project is more than 9 billion United States dollars. All of them are implemented by foreign companies through direct investment. It should be noted that as a result of systematic approach, solar and wind power plants with a total capacity of more than 8,000 megawatts. Hydroelectric power plants with a capacity of 868 megawatts will begin to work in Uzbekistan by 2026. Uzbekistan has set a goal to generate 30% of its electricity from renewable energy sources by 2030. To achieve this, Uzbekistan is ready for mutually beneficial cooperation with all countries. Of course, Uzbekistan is pursuing a consistent policy of increasing energy efficiency in economic and social sectors, developing the use of renewable energy sources, and will call for the unity of the world community, achieving goals towards sustainable future.
Thank you.
Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, dear colleague. I know it is not easy to conclude in time, to stick to the time, but forgive me if I will be obliged to ask you to conclude, but I know we have many things to share with the colleagues. I will very much appreciate if you just follow this time limit during our debates. Thank you very much. So next speaker, Mr. Lloyd Doggett from the United States, and to be ready, Mr. Daniyar Tolonov from Kyrgyzstan. So,
Thank you very much. While our most urgent American priority for Ukraine must be U.S. House approval of the entire $23 billion in assistance, which was recently approved on a bipartisan basis in the United States Senate, and to overcome the few people in the United States who would appease Putin, there are two additional issues to which I would draw your attention. Russia, first of all, has a well-oiled war machine because of oil sales to the same democracies here in the West that are sending aid to Ukraine to fight the machine. By shipping its oil to be laundered and refined into gasoline or jet fuel in third-party countries like the United Arab Emirates and India, Russia can circumvent sanctions. Tomorrow, Global Witness, a UK-based NGO, is issuing a report that during the last year, the EU alone in seaborne imports of refined products through this Russian oil loophole fueled $1.1 billion to the Kremlin in direct tax revenues. This is the equivalent of the entire NATO package to supply Ukraine with artillery and ammunition that was recently approved. Congressman Joe Wilson and I have legislation to close this loophole in America, and we hope that others will do the same. The second issue is to compel Russia to pay for the damage that is inflicted. Euroclear holds 260 billion euros in frozen Russian sovereign funds. It earned 4.4 billion euros on that last year. That's money that should be going to Ukraine. We have legislation on that in the United States also, but again, the major assets remain here in Europe. They should be dedicated to Ukraine, certainly the income, but the assets themselves as well. And I yield back.
Thank you very much, dear Doggett, for your intervention. Now I want to give the floor to Mr. Daniyar Tolonov of Kyrgyzstan. To be ready, Mr. Tobias Sprinkler of Germany. So, Mr. Tolonov, you have the floor.
Все можно? Уважаемый господин председатель, уважаемые коллеги, позвольте мне от имени делегации Журкениши Кыргызской Республики поприветствовать председателя комитета и всех приглашенных гостей сегодняшнего зимнего заседания Парламентской ассамблеи ОБСЕ. Уважаемые коллеги, и социально-экономического благополучия граждан сложно говорить о безопасности в комплексе. Надеемся, что полевая миссия ОБСЕ в Кыргызстане будет активно вовлечена в работу по реализации национальных программ и проектов, нацеленных на решение проблем окружающей среды и негативных последствий изменения климата. Сегодня я хотел бы обратиться к вам с важным вопросом, который касается не только интересов Кыргызстана, но и всего мирового сообщества. Интенсивное таяние ледников, вызванное глобальным изменением климата, угрожает нашим водным ресурсам, а в свою очередь сельскому хозяйству. Горные регионы, в том числе 90% нашей страны, Кыргызстана, оказываются особенно уязвимы перед этим вызовом. С начала 2000-х годов наша страна активно привлекает внимание мирового сообщества к проблемам горных регионов. Мы решительно поддерживаем реализацию пятилетия действия по развитию горных регионов на 2023-2027 года. Объявлена резолюция 77-й сессии Генеральной Ассамблеи ООН под названием «Устойчивое горное развитие». На национальном и международном уровне мы предпринимаем шаги для решения данных проблем. Мы разработали и утвердили национальную дорожную карту по реализации пятилетия, объединяя мероприятия глобального, регионального и национального уровней. Это включает в себя действующие перспективные проекты, а также меры, связанные с целями устойчивого развития. Инициатива Кыргызстана привела к созданию группы Task Force на базе секретариата горного партнерства, которая разработала глобальный план действий по реализации пятилетия. Мы представили этот план в политической форме условий уровня по устойчивому развитию в июле 2023 года. Завершающим этапом наших усилий станет второй глобальный горный саммит Бишкек +25 в 2027 году. Мы приглашаем государств-членов ОБСЕ принять активное участие, ввести конкретные обязательства для сохранения горных экосистем. Мы также поддерживаем создание широкой коалиции горных стран, включая как развитые, так и развивающие страны, с фокусом на борьбе с изменением климата и переходе к зеленой экономике. Проблемы горных регионов не могут оставаться лишь проблемами горных стран. Мы призываем к совместным усилиям мирового сообщества для решения этих важных вопросов. Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you very much. Спасибо. Now, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Tobias Winkler from Germany and to be followed by Mr. Charles Angus of Canada. Tobias, please, you have the floor.
Yes, dear Chairman, dear colleagues, a strong and independent economy serves as the bedrock of a nation's security. In Europe, for example, Germany stands as an economic powerhouse, contributing significantly to the stability of the European Union. Unfortunately, this is especially visible when we struggle or stay behind the expectations, like now. The ability to sustainably generate wealth and maintain economic stability enables countries to invest in military capabilities, infrastructure, and social programs, creating a resilient foundation that is essential for responding to security challenges. The unprovoked full-scale invasion of Russia and Ukraine also shocked all protagonists of multilateral economic approaches. The reactions of decoupling and de-risking will cost enormous amounts of money. It slows down worldwide economic development and weakens technological progress. Therefore, it is necessary to concentrate on our strength, not to fall back in times of protectionism. Our duty is to keep international cooperation alive, to diversify our economies and to become resilient against external shocks. By reducing dependencies on single sectors, countries can mitigate economic vulnerabilities that may be exploited for geopolitical leverage. Only economic success will finally convince other countries and societies to follow democratic principles and common values like dignity of human beings, peace, freedom, human rights, and the rule of law. We welcome, therefore, all efforts by the OSCE to fight corruption and money laundering, which are main obstacles for foreign investments. We have to pave the way for diverse cooperation. This approach aligns with the broader goal of ensuring a resilient and secure Europe by promoting economic diversification and reducing susceptibility to external pressures. A robust economy is crucial for maintaining technological sovereignty and innovation elements that are increasingly vital for security in the modern world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, dear Tobias. And Tobias, sorry. Now I want to give the floor to Mr. Charlie Angus to be followed by Mr. Tahir Mikshir of Azerbaijan. So Mr. Angus, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, colleagues. It's an honor to be here. I represent a constituency in northern Canada that's bigger than France, where we are in deep snow, and we have the metals for the economic transition that we need to have. But I'm not here to talk about all the great things we can do. The climate crisis is always mentioned as one of 6 things whenever I go to an international forum, and it's usually 6th on the list. It's number 1. The crisis is on us. Back home right now, when it normally is deep snow, the fire season has begun. We went the 12 hottest months in history the last year. January and February are already off the scale. We had 200,000 plus people forced from their homes. We almost lost numerous communities from fires. So the issue of the climate crisis of us being past 2 degrees, it's here. And we have to deal with it, I think, in a much stronger multilateral means, and not simply hoping for the best and let everyone try and put it on priorities with 10 other things. If we don't have a livable climate, we have nothing. And to do that, we also must confront the fact, and I come from a petro nation, the oil and gas industry are not interested in helping. They've made it very clear that they will make as much money as they can while they can. So we need a multilateral approach to say that clean tech is going to be a priority, and we have to work across boundaries. Otherwise, we're going to see refugees. Otherwise, we're going to see crisis, and we are going to see war. And it's a bleak picture, but it is what the United Nations has been telling us for years, and it's here. And we, colleagues, have to take this very seriously.
Thank you very much, dear Angus. Mr. Angus, now I want to give the floor to Mr. Tahir Mikshir of Azerbaijan, to be followed by Ms. Tinatun Bokuchova of Georgia. Mr. Mikshir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dear colleagues, when we discuss economic security, we have to support the safe transport relations between the member states. One of these projects, which was built in trust and good neighborhood, is a middle corridor. The middle corridor is a multimodal land and sea transport route stretching from China through Kazakhstan, past Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and across the Caspian Sea through Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Turkey to the Black Sea. Due to huge investment in infrastructure in Azerbaijan, in Georgia, and in Turkey, due to the war in Ukraine and the sanctions, including the ban on Russian freight forwarders operating in the EU and the ban on trucks from the EU to enter Russia, there has been a reorientation of the significant shares of goods transported by land. The middle corridor is strongly benefiting from this development. The middle corridor offers a clear advantages in terms of transport time between China and Europe, with 13 days compared to the sea route with 35 days. From a European perspective, it also offers access to the growing market to the Central Asia and Caucasus region, as well as faster access to the Middle East. Since the beginning of the war, transport volumes on the middle corridor have increased significantly. There are also some challenges for the middle corridor also, to increase the capacity to develop transport infrastructure in Central Asia, to increase the quantity of transport vessels in Caspian Sea, the digitalization of the all custom and border services, uniform price policy are main challenges. At this point, we welcome European Union initiatives to invest in infrastructure projects in Central Asia and Trans-Caspian projects. These treatments are applying all transport communication, including the Zagazir corridor between Azerbaijan and Armenia, will increase the capacity of middle corridor also. As you know, Azerbaijan is going to host COP29. We plan to invest in green economy. Due to these reasons, I think we will be able to call middle corridor as a green corridor in the future also. Dear colleagues, middle corridor is experiencing increased importance due to the abstraction of all transport flows via North corridor. So for planned investment, the capacity and sources of the transport volume is expected to continue to grow strongly in the coming years. But we need for more investment. That's why I call all the member states to encourage investment in the middle corridor project in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, dear Mikshli. Now I want to give the floor to Ms. Tinatun Bokuchova of Georgia, and to be followed by Mr. Mauro Del Barba of Italy. Madam Bokuchova, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Keeping in mind the importance of the economic and environmental dimension in the OSCE concept of comprehensive security and cooperation, I'd like to draw your attention to the situation in Georgia. Deepening economic and social disparities, lack of the rule of law, weak governance, corruption, widespread poverty, and high unemployment plague today's Georgia. Oligarchic rule of Russian-made billionaire Bidzina Ivanishvili have led to drastic inequalities in society where the privileged few pursue self-enrichment and others are subjected to poverty or forced migration. An estimated 800,000 Georgians have left since Ivanishvili's rule, which for a country of 2.7 million is a democratic catastrophe. Moreover, Georgia's economy remains susceptible to external malign influence with increased dependence as part of government policy on the Russian market and the continued threat of our territory being used for Russian sanctions evasion. This underscores the significance of initiatives like the Middle Corridor, which aims to enhance regional connectivity and trade. Leveraging its strategic geographic position, Georgia has the potential to evolve into not only the primary logistics hub of the Caucasus region, but also a significant conduit for Central Asian transport. In considering Georgia's transit and logistics potential, we must acknowledge the legacy of President Mikhail Saakashvili, who once drove bold economic reforms to transform Georgia's economy and integrate it into global markets, international trade networks, but is now a political prisoner at the behest of Ivanishvili's oligarchic rule, with subjugated state institutions, including the judiciary. As we look ahead with key parliamentary elections coming up in Georgia in October, it is imperative that the integrity of the electoral process is upheld. Free and fair elections are not only a cornerstone of democracy, but also a prerequisite for sustainable development and economic advancement. I urge all of you to participate in the election observation mission of the Parliamentary Assembly, and thank you in advance for your support to Georgia's democracy and prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Bokuchova, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Maura De Barba of Italy, to be followed by Mr. Christos Senekis of Cyprus. Mr. De Barba, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Madam Rapporteur. I think that the topics that have been identified are all very appropriate and important. It is necessary to monitor and prevent the risks associated with increasingly pervasive innovation, as well as to ensure that market dynamics lead to profitable and fair exchanges for the population we represent. I said market because I would like to focus on market, at least that state. The market is not a politically neutral place. Through the market, choices and exchanges are made that have increasingly impactful political consequences on the security of our states and of our citizens. From this point of view, we must be aware that companies political actors, and as such need to be equipped with shared policies like those that some states, such as United States, Canada, British Columbia, Italy, France, Spain, San Marino, and others outside the OSCE area perimeter have adopted. It is therefore welcome that all the points listed by the rapporteur are addressed, and that our work can at least constitute an authoritative attempt to establish a common language that our respective government and parliaments, through their representative in the Parliamentary Assembly and this committee, can implement. Already in July 2019, I had the opportunity to propose this issue, and it was part of Luxembourg Declaration at point 80 and 81. I suggest to follow the line that we made in 2019 for a more sustainable market of companies and market. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. De Barba. Now I want to give the floor to Mr. Christos Senekis of Cyprus, to be followed by Mr. David Stogmiller of Austria. Mr. Senekis, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dear colleagues, as we stand at the crossroads of growing global challenges and geopolitical tensions, advancing a common OSCE approach in promoting economic and environmental security remains a very difficult task. The OSCE recognizes that economic and environmental dimensions are integral components of comprehensive security. Our collective well-being depends on sustainable economic growth, efficient resource management, and environmental protection. Over the past decades, significant progress had been achieved. We had witnessed sustainable economic growth, rising standards of living, and improved quality of life. However, new threats have emerged, threats that transcend borders and demand collective action. The climate change, for example, is becoming more prominent across the OSCE region. In the Mediterranean, forest fires and droughts increase every year. And last year was the hottest on record, but it could be the coolest for many years to come. On the economic level, our economies were shaken by the COVID-19 crisis, while the ongoing war in Ukraine is exacerbating the cost of living crisis, which is particularly burdens some of the most vulnerable households. The ongoing conflict in the Middle East, the attacks by Houthi rebels, which disrupt global supply chains, and the danger of generalized instability are further complicating our efforts to reduce rising inflation. To advance economic and environmental security, cooperation among participating states must prevail. We must make ensuring that development is sustainable. Our economic growth should not come at the expense of the environment. In advancing a common OSCE approach on environmental and economic sustainability, we are making an investment to security, stability, democracy, and prosperity. We must work together to build a resilient, a sustainable future for generations to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Senikis. Now I want to give the floor to Mr. David Stogmuller of Austria, and he will be followed by Ms. Susana Amador of Portugal. Mr. Stogmuller, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, dear colleagues. Last year, the North Macedonian OSCE chairpersonship hosted a youth forum in Skopje, focused on innovative and entrepreneurial solutions for creating a culture of peace, dialogue, justice, trust, and reconciliation. This gathering united young innovators and entrepreneurs from across the OSCE to tackle the challenges they face in exercising their economic rights and to discuss how governments and parliaments can support the development of innovative solutions and make changes on the ground. The OSCE network of young parliamentarians organized an interactive side events under the title Youth Lead Innovations and Entrepreneurship in Shaping Parliamentary Agendas. This event not only focused on enhancing young people's involvement in policy and development, but also promoted the collaboration between young innovators, entrepreneurs, and parliamentarians to shape parliamentary agendas with fresh ideas. In collaboration with our colleagues, Mr. Alexander Stokabo from Norway and Mr. Iskren Mitev from Bulgaria, we engage with young innovators on how to effectively participate in lobbying policy and development and assessment. This dialogue leads to a set of recommendations, including a manifesto document presented to the OSCE Israeli Council last December. In this regard, I would like to bring to the attention of the General Committee and in particular to the rapporteur, Mrs. Gudrun Kugler, the manifesto document that young people adopted during this event. This recommendation touched upon a broad range of issues concerning improvement environmental for innovations among young people. It covers areas of reforms in education system and legal frameworks, creation of ecosystems for collaboration and networking, as well as allocation of necessary funding for stimulation of young entrepreneurship. The OSCE has a role to play in fostering youth innovation and entrepreneurship and encourage all delegation to review this document and its recommendation within the national parliaments and decision-making bodies. Lastly, our gratitude goes to the North Macedonia OSCE chairpersonship and the OSCE coordinator on economic and environmental activities for their big support in organizing this pivotal forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now I want to give the floor to Ms. Susana Amador, Portugal. She will be followed by Mr. Tekin Bingöl of Turkey. Madam Amador, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, dear colleagues, Despite growing recognition on the interlinkage between climate change, peace, and security, few examples of integrated programmatic approaches that address specific risks at the intersection of climate change and security exist. The OSCE is only the only organization that can establish a comprehensive set of political binding commitments regarding economic and environmental cooperation within the OSCE's regime that places all the participating states in an equal footing and aims at enhancing their security. Therefore, on this second dimension, OSCE needs to continue to promote the full implementation of existing international documents to make sure that all participating states honor commitments they have made. Second place, it also needs to take the political initiative if necessary and engage participating states in drafting of new documents and digital tools. Third place, OSCE assists participating states whenever necessary with capacity building and use a variety of education tools to make sure that they are in a position to live up to the commitments as outlined by international treaties and conventions. Four, OSCE field presences have a crucial role to play in this regard through their daily contacts with national and local authorities, NGOs, academy, and the business community. They can detect concrete issues and obstacles to sustain economical and social development. Dear fellows, unless we continue to take earnest and rapid action to ensure that development is undertaken in a more sustainable manner, history will judge us harshly for having jeopardized the livelihood of the coming generations. We hope that we can act and act now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear ambassadors. Now I want to give the floor to Mr. Tekin Bingöl of Turkey. After him, Dr. Rupa Haq of United Kingdom will have the floor. Mr. Bingöl, please take the floor.
Sayın Başkan, sayın milletvekilleri, önemli bilgiler içeren verimli sunumlar için konuşmacılara teşekkür ederim. Bildiğiniz gibi ekonomik ve çevresel sorunlar küresel düzeyde artan tehditlerle birlikte uluslararası işbirliğini zorunlu hale getirmiştir. Bu durum çevresel ve ekonomik güvenlik risklerinin ortadan kaldırılması için sadece devletlerin değil, uluslararası örgütlerin de çabalarını gerektirmektedir. Bu çerçevede AGİT'in çevre, ekonomi ve insani boyutları içeren güvenlik anlayışını AGİT üye ülkeleri olarak işbirliği içerisinde ele almalıyız. Ekonomik güvenlik, milli güvenliği ve siyasal bağımsızlığı koruma açısından kritik bir unsurdur. Ekonominin güvenliği, ulusal çıkarlar doğrultusunda yapılan müdahaleler şekillenirken güçlü bir ekonomi, ulusal güvenliği güvence altına alabilir. Çevresel güvenlik ise doğal kaynakların sürdürülebilir bir şekilde kullanılmasını ve çevresel risklerin azaltılmasını içerir. İklim değişikliği, çevresel kirlilik ve doğal kaynakların tükenmesi gibi konular küresel ölçekte ortak müdahale gerektiren acil konulardır. Sonuç olarak çevresel ve ekonomik güvenliği sağlamak ve uluslararası çıkarları korumak adına uluslararası işbirliğinin önemi göz önünde tutulmalıdır. Bu konularda stratejik bir yaklaşım benimsenerek devletlerin sürdürülebilirlik ve güvenlik hedeflerine yönelik kapsamlı bir politika izlenmelidir. Bu politika yapıcılar, uzmanlar ve sivil toplum kuruluşları arasında daha fazla işbirliği ve bilgi paylaşımı gerektirecek bir süreçtir. Teşekkür ederim.
Teşekkürler. Thank you very much. Now, the next speaker is Dr. Rupa Haq from United Kingdom, and she will be followed by Mr. Halis Nobs of North Macedonia. Dr. Haq, you have the floor.
The topics of economic affairs, technology, and environment are of huge significance to the globe. Every OSCE country, including my own, the UK, we have a prime minister, the fifth in 7 years, who was a popular economy minister when he gave away money for free in COVID, now presiding over a recession. And in AI, we see technologically with deep fakes, big threats to us, as well as the existential threat to our planet of climate change. Our country has massively downgraded our net zero targets. Shameful. And there's been much remarked here. We're approaching the second anniversary of Putin's invasion of Ukraine. If we look at the built environment there, we see such destruction and death. And the murder of Alex Navalny also serves us as a reminder that it's a year of elections. 40% of our planet is going to the polls. Not all of these fights are fair and transparent. In this case, the opposition is dead. Destruction abounds in Gaza too. We've seen UN buildings, schools, hospitals, churches, mosques demolished to dust, like a disaster movie or horror film. October the 7th was horrific, barbaric, medieval killings. But why are we piling more war crimes on top of war crimes, more bodies on top of more bodies? As Prince William, our future king, has now advocated an immediate bilateral ceasefire so all sides lay down their arms, hostages are released, and we work towards a two-state solution is so badly needed now for peace, security, and dignity for all. I could go on and on. Last week in Armenia with other MPs, we learned of Azerbaijani aggression in Nagorno-Karabakh. We met displaced refugees. But time is running out, so I'll say even in a rich country like the UK, food insecurity and fuel poverty abound. Let's do better than this. I long for change in the world and hopefully at home soon. In a UK Labour government, I'd welcome you all to the election, but I don't know when it is.
Thank you. I wish all the best
Someone's listening.
to you for your new elections. I
Yeah, we don't know
understand.
when it is.
Now, as I told that Mr. Snobs is absent, so I want to call Mr. Andy Harris of the United States, and then Mr. Andrei Savinyuk will follow. Mr. Harris, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Russia's use of corruption as a tool of foreign policy helped Russia launch the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Through bribes, anonymous money, and misinformation, Russia created the environment for the destruction and hardships it has inflicted upon Ukraine, Europe, and indeed the world. In order to win the war against Russia and prevent Russian aggression in the future, we must make our systems less susceptible to foreign corruption. Last year, the U.S. Congress passed the Foreign Extortion Prevention Act, which criminalized bribery demands. This law enables the U.S. Department of Justice to pursue corrupt foreign officials demanding bribes when there is a U.S. nexus of any sort. The U.S. Congress is now also advancing a bill to confiscate Russian frozen sovereign assets. This is particularly timely now with the death of Alexei Navalny. Russia has approximately $350 billion in frozen Russian sovereign assets in the USA, the EU, the UK, and Canada. We now need to all work together to confiscate these assets and use them for Ukraine, for its defense and victory against Russia, and for its reconstruction after the war. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Harris. Now I want to give the floor to Mr. Andrei Savinyuk. To be ready, Mr. Savonimir Trosko of Croatia. Sorry for wrong pronunciation. But,
Благодарю вас, господин председатель. Сегодня мы обсуждаем важную тему экономического развития. Но эти обсуждения теряют для Беларуси смысл из-за экономических санкций, нарушающих свободу торговли и инвестиций в отношении Республики Беларусь. Эти односторонние ограничительные меры незаконны с точки зрения международного права и устава ООН. Эти санкции полностью противоречат также основным принципам ОБСЕ. В частности, полный запрет на транзит калийных удобрений через порты Европейского Союза на Балтийском море уже спровоцировал рост мировых цен на удобрения,
сокращение потребления удобрений и снижение урожайности в ряде развивающихся стран. Эти незаконные действия стран ЕС грубо нарушают не только права Беларуси, как страны, не имеющей выхода к морю, но и создают предпосылки к дестабилизации мирового рынка продовольствия и продовольственной безопасности многих развивающихся стран. При этом я хотел бы обратить внимание еще на одно обстоятельство. В этом году валовый внутренний продукт Беларуси вырос почти на 4%. Промышленное производство выросло на 9%. Мы никогда не видели таких темпов экономического развития в период нормальных политических отношений со странами коллективного Запада. Может быть, это подсказывает нам актуальную тему для обсуждения на следующей сессии, которую можно озаглавить следующим образом. Несправедливый экономический, торговый и финансовый порядок глобализации и его разрушительное воздействие на большинство стран, которые этот глобальный порядок сделал странами периферии. Уверен, что такое обсуждение, если бы оно состоялось, вызвало самый пристальный интерес в мире. Благодарю за внимание.
Thank you, Mr. Semenyuk. Now I want to give the floor to Mr. Troskot of Croatia, to be followed by Mr. John Pons of Spain. Mr. Troskot, you have the floor.
Dear Mr. Chairman, dear honorable members of parliaments all across the OSCE region, in order to attract investments from Asia and the Americas, Croatia has been aiming for the encouragement of a worldview that considers bilateral, multilateral, and regional cooperation. The wider Mediterranean region is the cradle of busy shipping and air routes linking 3 continents. In that context, Croatia has recognized a tremendous potential to become a prosperous and modern European Union state. We would like to share our strategic thinking with you and draw your attention to the geopolitical and economic risks which have been identified on the recent 2024 BRICS expansion, which might endanger international supply chain and maritime security. Expanding this multilateral platform with new members, BRICS left their significant footprints at the sea level waterways such as Suez Canal and Bab al-Mandab Strait, which both connect the Mediterranean Sea, Red Sea, and Indian Ocean. Many OCPA members, especially the Mediterranean countries, have long-term interest in this strategically vital route. We would like to express our serious concerns on the developments in the Red Sea waterway zone, especially after the Yemeni Houthi militias who have sunk the British cargo vessel. Recognized as a regional arrangement under Chapter 8 of the United Nations Charter, the OSCE is a primary instrument for early warning, conflict prevention, and crisis management. The only intention of this speech is to indicate the possible ramifications for our societies if we as OSCE do not develop and promote mechanisms on time for the prevention of a very probable waterway economic crisis in the Red Sea zone and consequently in the Mediterranean countries and the entire Europe. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Troskot. And now I want to give the floor to Mr. John Pons of Spain, and to be followed by Mr. Damdin Tsegobatar of Mongolia. Here, please, you have the floor.
Muchísimas gracias, presidente, por darme la palabra. Si me permite, voy a hacer 3 reflexiones reaccionando a la mesa, a lo que se ha ido diciendo la mesa. Una que me ha preocupado, otra que no se ha dicho y una tercera sobre nuestro rol, ¿no? La primera sobre Ucrania, ¿no? Yo creo que también hay que hablar de una forma positiva en el sentido de que ha habido una gran unidad de acción en relación a la agresión rusa de Ucrania. Hoy hay una Ucrania más europea que nunca y menos rusa, ¿no? Con la accesión, con el proceso de accesión. Pero sí que me gustaría decir que nosotros como parlamentarios somos útiles si damos soluciones y dialogamos. Aunque sé que es duro escucharlo,
pero nuestra utilidad como parlamentarios es ser una plataforma que dé soluciones a los conflictos, precisamente en este tiempo de conflicto. Primera cosa. Segunda cosa, sobre algo que no se ha dicho en la mesa. Uno de los temas fundamentales de la transición climática es la desigualdad. Si no somos capaces de disociar cambio climático con élites, es decir, que esta transición es una transición para los ricos y también para los países ricos, las sociedades se van a alejar de esta transición y, por cierto, va a acabarlo pagando la democracia. Por tanto, hemos de hacer esta transición justa, que nadie se quede atrás. Y la tercera cosa que no puedo dejar pasar, lo siento mucho, pero no lo puedo dejar pasar. Me sabe mal, pero no puede ser que en esta sala se diga que la migración y el terrorismo tienen alguna ligazón. En Europa hay un 5,5% de la población que no es de la Unión Europea, que se concentra en 4 países, en Francia, en España, en Italia y en Alemania. Ligar terrorismo con inseguridad y migración es una vergüenza. Por tanto, disociemos que en Europa hay personas que cruzan por temas de asilo y por temas de migración económica. Después, como en todos los territorios, hay gente que ya más lejos, gente que ya más cerca, porque claro, si al final acabamos diciendo que la gente que migra es la gente que se manifiesta en pro de Hamas, tenemos un problema, Houston. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Now I want to give the floor to Mr. Damden Sukobator and to be followed by our last speaker, Mr. Yaroslav Yurishin. So by that, we will conclude the list of speakers for today, for this debate. Please, Mr. Sukobator, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a comment on the AI component of our discussion, especially deepfakes. Well, as the deepfakes use is spreading wider around the world, then we need to have, deeper approach to deepfakes in order to have better ways of dealing with the issue. Now, we tend to take very overgeneralized view on the deepfakes, and that's really may start causing problems. Just to give you an example, let's take a video tape of a person saying something that he did not say. What's fake about this? For example, the picture, the image of a person, it's made up by a computer, but it's not fake. We have artists doing, painting portraits of a person. That portrait is not exactly that person, but we do not call that portrait as fake. The same applies to the voice. The voice is computer generated, and therefore it's made up by a computer, but it is so attuned to the original voice of a person that it's not fake. What's fake about this is the content of what the person said. Unless we do go into this from legal perspective, technical perspective, moral perspective, that deep into the deepfakes, we will really run into legal problems. For example, if we take just this generalized approach, then all of the portraits of kings, princes that are put around the national galleries around the world will end up being legally fake. But they are not fake. And therefore, in order to deal now, more efficiently with the issue, this precise issue of what constitutes fake is really required to be developed to a very fine art level, study. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sukobator. Now I want to give the floor to Mr. Yaroslav Yurushin. Mr. Yurushin, you have the floor.
Thanks a lot. First of all, I must stress that Russia, served by their oil industries, per day enough money to attack every night Ukrainian peaceful cities. And you heard a representative of Belarus who proudly say that they have GDP additional last year, but why? Because Belarus, as other country, become a country who helped Russia to avoid sanction. And when sanctions are not worked properly, we have result of killing people. And some of them are very famous people, for example, Alexei Navalny. Russia have enough money. Its economy work properly. Why? Because buying software, technology, and a lot of our needs for war, using our territory, using the country for these needs. Due to that, we can stop war very quickly if sanctions will be working properly. If we additional to Magnitsky Act, we will have a Navalny Act. We have more sanction against Russia. We count on the adoption of sanction in the field of nuclear energy. You heard about disaster around our Zaporizhia, our region, where Russia captured the biggest nuclear power industry. We count on sanction in oil sphere. We really need that to stop war. Thanks.
Thank you very much, dear colleagues, for your interesting intervention in the proposal. Since we don't have the time, unfortunately, I don't want to give the floor to our rapporteur or the speakers for their comment, possible comment or the intervention. So I hope that Madam Quigler, our rapporteur, will already, she has taken the notes from the speeches, and I hope that she will prepare a very good report for the annual session in Bucharest, and we're looking forward to continue these debates during our annual session. I also thank to ambassadors for joining us today. It is pretty much appreciated. Looking forward to working closer to you and to continuing our close cooperation. Dear colleagues, now I want to move immediately on the next item, which is special debate. Artificial intelligence, a technological breakthrough with security implications. Dear colleagues, AI is not just a technological breakthrough. It is reshaping the very fabric of our societies, economies, and security landscapes. It is a catalyst for progress across various industries and sectors, and its impact on economic growth, scientific research, innovation, and efficiency is likely to be remarkable. However, with great technological progress, as we know, comes great responsibilities and challenges. The integration of AI into various domains raises crucial questions about security, ethics, and the potential risks associated with its deployment. Striking the right balance between leveraging of power of AI and mitigating its security risks is a delicate task. We need to explore how we can harness its potential while avoiding unintended consequences, including the gloomiest scenarios. Our second committee resolution adopted last year in Vancouver duly emphasized the importance of continued research and regulation in the AI field. Our debate today will build on this recommendation, but not only providing an overview of what AI is in general, but also focusing on its broader implications for our security. Now I would like to warmly welcome Mr. Nicholas Ott, Senior Manager of Government Affairs from the European Government Affairs Unit at Microsoft. Mr. Ott, thank you very much for joining us in person. We are looking forward to hearing the perspective of a big tech company on the issue of AI and gaining valuable insights into efforts in shaping responsible AI practice. Dear Nicholas, you have the floor, please.
Dear Chair, dear Ambassador, dear Madam Rapporteur, and dear honorable members of the OSCE General Assembly. As a former staff member of the OSCE Secretariat, it's a sincere pleasure to be back here with you today. And I work in Microsoft's European Government Affairs team, so I'm not a techie. So my presentation will really focus on the policy, the broader implications. If you do have technical questions, I can try to answer them, but I might fail. So let's see how deep we're going to get today. But I've been asked to cover a lot of ground, so that will only scratch the surface of many of the aspects that are quite pertinent and important when we look at AI. But I look forward to getting into deeper of any discussions with you, either during the Q&A or during the reception later today. I will focus on three issues, essentially the economic opportunity of AI, the AI labor market, and then some of the security considerations on that very topic. For those of you who are not familiar with the so-called generative AI, you get a little bit of an overview here on what we're looking at more broadly speaking, because AI in itself is not an entirely new phenomenon, as you can see here on this slide. We're looking at a progression and development that's been here in the decades. It's just that most recently we've seen a significant increase in its usage because of its practical applications throughout our work and life. But if we look at the actual implications for us as societies, what we see here is that we're observing a declining workforce across the board. This is the population pyramid for the EU. You have the same for Central and Southern Asia. We have a similar trend in North America and in Western Europe at large. And that obviously has implications for us. And essentially not just for us as societies, but of course also for the labor market. And there what we see is that people struggle with time and energy. And that means that there is sort of this ongoing struggle where we see that innovation is of an opportunity, but we're lacking the empowerment, so to say, of the populations to really leverage those innovations because of time constraints and other implications. And that in turn really leads to productivity. Something that I think is quite important for all of us as we're looking across your respective national developments and economies. But essentially, what's quite interesting is that when we ask people what they're looking for in terms of AI and work assistance, this is essentially the highest responses here, and it's quite broad but also fairly realistic. To be honest, it's not too complex. The asks here are not too sophisticated. However, when we look at the actual opportunities, there is quite a significant amount of economic output for entrepreneurs. We're looking at a potentially 7% global gross domestic product over a decade. And what we've essentially noticed already amongst our customers and clients is that among healthcare, education, and cybersecurity, the opportunities to leverage AI are vast, significant, and quite useful across the board. But it will change. It will also, of course, have challenges and implications for the labor market, both in terms of learning new skills, figuring out, for example, what prompt engineering means and how we can actually work with these models, how to rethink our workflow. But essentially, also, we're looking at a development of so-called reskilling. Because in the end, this is something that is quite a significant change for all of us. I can tell you that ever since I started implementing AI capabilities into my workflow, it has changed over the last months quite significantly because I learned to use the products and the services better. And that's something that more and more people will experience as we're going forward. We are partnering with a lot of institutions, for example, with the EU Cybersecurity Skills Academy, but also with many schools and other initiatives to really help to bring this forward. But this is something that, in the end, needs to be addressed by many if we want to be able to leverage this technology broadly across various ways of education, not just in schools, but really through a lifelong learning. And the reason why we are emphasizing this so much is really because what we've seen with the introduction of ChatGPT and all the other various models and services is that the adoption is just unheard of in that sense. The use cases are significant. We compare these to other technology developments over the last couple of years. This is something that is quite new, quite rapid. And of course, that leads also you and your constituents to, of course, have a lot of questions, concerns, confusions, because this is a really rapidly developed environment. So what my job is, and I hope that you will get the chance to not just engage with Microsoft, but with other tech providers as well, to answer these questions and be there and listen to you and hear you to make sure that we understand how to improve these products and services as they're developing and maturing over time. I'd now like to switch to the second part of my presentation, which essentially focuses on how we are looking at this from a governance and a policy point of view. And that is essentially, first of all, that we take this overall really seriously. And this is not new to us. And essentially, actually, we're entering the 10th year, essentially, of our AI journey. And that is not necessarily only focused on the products, it's really on the governance. Is it our principles that we adopted in 2018? Is it the establishment of our Office of Responsible AI in 2019? Is it our dashboard for responsible AI in 2021? This goes on, and we're developing this as we're going forward, because it's not just about maturing the products, but also really maturing the governance framework under which we are operating our AI capabilities. That essentially means that this slide here gives you a snapshot of how we are governing our own use cases for AI. These six principles take center stage when we decide how to develop our models, how to deploy them, which customer use cases are approved, which are not. Sensitive use cases is a huge team that reviews these on a very diligent basis. That may necessarily delay certain deployments, but it helps us in making sure that our services around AI are used in a responsible way. If you're interested in digging deeper into this, we did publish a 5-point blueprint for governing AI just recently. This is a QR code that you can scan if you wanted to get the full report. It's a long report, so maybe you can use AI to get a summary of it if you'd like to. But essentially, here are sort of the 5 key points that I wanted you just be aware of, as we think that this is a space that needs to be regulated. It needs to be governed, and we need parliamentarians like you to make sure that this is done in a responsible way. We are here to engage in a conversation with you to make sure that that you appreciate the complexity, the potential of these technologies. But of course, in the end, it's lawmakers like you who get to decide and regulate how these technologies are being deployed. Many of you are probably familiar with the EU AI Act here, which gives sort of the first specific snapshot of how you can essentially regulate AI. But it's not the only one out there. In fact, I wanted to just briefly mention a few other ones if you're looking for additional inspiration. There are a lot of these efforts really around the world. All of them are quite commendable and noteworthy. Happy to go into deeper detail on any of those, but I just encourage you that if you're interested in learning more, and I saw that on your agenda for your next meeting in Portugal, it is a dedicated focus on AI regulation. Have a look at them, check them out, and see whether these are supplementing sort of your own efforts in this space. And then last but not least, since this is a security-related session, I wanted to just quickly draw your attention to a few paradigm shifts, so to say, that I think are noteworthy. One is that AI systems are dynamic, and that is a little bit of a new environment for us to operate in from a security point of view. And I'm happy to dive deeper into what it actually means. But in the same kind, there are certain similarities to previous security, especially cybersecurity challenges, but also different ones, be it unique attack vectors, other methods of attacks, etc. And essentially, one thing that I think is noteworthy for us, as quite often we were presenting focuses on vulnerabilities in AI systems, they're different. It's not as you can just deploy a patch and then think your system is fixed. So it's also for us a learning curve to appreciate how to make sure that as we are learning and improving the systems, this is properly integrated into an effective session. That for us means that we're actually leveraging AI to process the trillions of data sets that we are actually processing every day, because by no means would we have enough employees to do this effectively on a human level. So we see this already in the day-to-day, how this helps us to identify malware, for example, before it was even activated in certain situations. Before humans are able to process this, we can detect variations of malware before they were deployed. That's something that's quite significant, and we believe this is only the start. From our vantage point, what we've learned in the last year is that it gives the defender quite an advantage. We've always spoken about the attacker advantage in cybersecurity discourses. For now, that paradigm shift has changed. And then I want to end here with just, since of course a lot of the AI pieces are not just focused on sort of this cybersecurity piece, but really on the disinformation and influence operation part. That means that we need to understand and perhaps even rethink what we can do to combat abusive AI-generated content. This is sort of our proposal for a comprehensive approach. You see here sort of our guidelines that we are including into our services and products, into our guidelines, to really make sure that we are properly safeguarding our services. that we understand how we can be a good partner to update legislation to really protect people effectively while using these technologies, and also make sure that we figure out how to best use our technologies like watermarking, etc., to make sure that generated AI content is either easily spottable or that people are not being manipulated by us. And I want to end here by something that was just recently announced a few days ago at the Munich Security Conference, which is a tech accord to combat deceptive use of AI in the 2024 elections. Many of you come from countries that have elections going on this year. We acknowledge that a lot of your concerns are stemming from political campaigns, from potential disinformation that may happen during your own elections. We've therefore partnered up with about 20 other companies in the space to put together a tech accord that really looks at these issues and makes sure that we are a more effective partner, especially in this year, in making sure that we can prevent, detect, have effective evaluation, public awareness, and resilience around this space. I skip provenance because some of you might not be familiar with that terminology. So let me quickly clarify what that means. Provenance essentially is when you add signals to identify the origin of the content where appropriate and technically feasible. That's something that is used quite, like a watermark, so to say, quite effectively already in some media, but not all of them. But we decided that, we also need to push ourselves in improving our technology to make sure that this is appreciated effectively. That's hot off the press, essentially. Really launched last Friday. So this is something where you will see us and other companies further implementing and showcasing how we want to make sure that we are delivering on these ambitions throughout this year. It's challenging, we acknowledge that, but we really hope that this is also a reflection of our commitment and our efforts to make sure that it's not just the challenges that you're seeing, but we are able to leverage the benefits of AI across the board safely, because ultimately our currency is trust. If our customers, if your constituents do not trust the technology that we can deploy, then we fail regardless of essentially what we're selling. So that's something that we place quite an emphasis for. And with that, I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, dear Nicholas, for your really interesting presentation. I hope that there will be some questions, some maybe intervention from the audience, but also please be with us until the end of the session. And I hope that we will take some notes afterwards from what you have said and what you have shared with us. So, dear colleagues, I'm truly delighted to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Jean-Marc Rickley. He is the head of the Global and Emerging Risks at the Geneva Center for Security Policy in Geneva, Switzerland. He is also the co-chair of Emerging Security Challenges Working Group at the NATO Partnership for Peace Consortium and the senior advisor for the Artificial Intelligence Initiative at the Future Security. He's exactly what we need to hear, to listen to him. And please, Professor Rickley, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the invitation. So, ladies and gentlemen, in the next 10 minutes, I will have to skip over very quickly some security implications. But just an introduction, the GCSP is an international foundation that was set up in 1996 when Switzerland joined NATO's Partnership for Peace, and we are a foundation council with 53 member states. So the objective is the promotion of international peace and security. So what I will show you what we should take care of when we think about security implications of this technology that will not affect most of the population, but my field of expertise is warfare. I'm looking at those outliers that are leveraging technology for that. But before we start, this was a painting that was painted in around 1899 by a French painter, and was asked how life would be in 2000. This is what he painted. As you can see here, what this painting represents is our inability to think about the future. When we infer about the future, we do it in a linear way. The problem is when you're faced with exponential growth. And the more we infer about the future, the more will be wrong. the delta between what we infer and what happens will be important. It turns out that the growth patterns of these emerging technologies is currently exponential. If you look at different metrics, not only in terms of computing power, in terms of data generation, just to give you an idea, in 2013, 48 hours of YouTube videos were uploaded every minute. In 2022, it was 500. So it's about 8 years per day in 2013, 82 years per day in 2022. And only for 2022, it's 30,000 years of video that were uploaded on YouTube. If we go back 30,000 years ago, it's when our species, Homo sapiens, came to Earth. So you put an Homo sapiens behind a screen, watching TV 24 hours a day until now, and would have watched only videos that were played on YouTube in 2022. So this amount of information obviously has security implication in terms of espionage and surveillance, because each of us have access to more and more information. This could be exploited. We have numerous cases, for instance, with Edward Snowden. Last year, it was a young American military who disclosed intelligence about Ukraine on server Discord. China has used extensively data to monitor and nudge its citizens into specific behavior, that social control. And similarly, when you have such technology to develop, you have an ecosystem that develops it. And so a company had an idea to collect all the pictures it could on the web and then create an application that is equivalent of mini intel agency, because I can take a picture of you and run through this application and we'll get information about who you are. I mean, the most visible is the example I will show you in terms of exponential growth in the field of manipulation and subversion. In 2014, a technique called generative adversarial network was invented by a Canadian researcher, Ian Goodfellow. And the idea is you put two algorithms in a zero-sum game scenario. One has to create a picture. The other has to say, well, it's a fake picture. You can see how fast the technology has evolved. By 2018, it was able to create completely realistic pictures. Now, if you look at this, maybe the person who has access to a computer, if you just click on this video, this was the first deepfake video that was uploaded. That was on Reddit in December 2017. Unfortunately, it's a porn video, but the face of the actress is not a real face. That's the straight actress got out. And what happened here is that her face was merged. When that video was uploaded on Reddit, experts in AI were asked how long would it take to democratize this technology? They say 1 to 2 years. In a span of 18 months after the first release of this video, about almost 15,000 videos of deepfakes were found on the internet, of which 96% of them are pornographic, and 100% of the victim of this 100% are women, because the algorithm has been trained on women's body, and they had been watched more than 100 million times. When you have such an ecosystem that develops, you have obviously all types of users. Pedophiles are using this type of algorithm to generate pictures of child abuses. Last year in Quebec, a pedophile was arrested. The police recovered about 600,000 pedopornographic files, of which 80,000 were deepfakes. And what he did was to collect pictures that parents share on Facebook, and suddenly your kids or baby could be a victim of a pedophile crime online. Obviously, this has been militarized very early in the war. The Russians created in March 2022 a video of Zelensky calling its fellow citizens to drop their weapons. A single screenshot, this is the one on the left side, shows you that it's not really credible. 5th of June, video was and
Также сегодня подпишу указ о всеобщей мобилизации. Для победы над опасным и коварным врагом нам нужно будет объединить все силы Российской Федерации. Жители Курской, Белгородской и Брянской областей эвакуироваться вглубь территории России, соблюдая порядок и спокойствие, неукоснительно выполнять распоряжения местных военных администраций.
Consequences of this are. This was 2 weeks ago, and this is a deep fake
Le
that
président français Emmanuel Macron a été contraint d'annuler sa visite en Ukraine à la suite d'une provocation meurtrière à son encontre. Selon une source proche du Conseil national du renseignement, cette tentative a été stoppée par les services secrets français, qui ont réussi à intercepter la correspondance et les appels des participants à une provocation potentielle. Selon la source, selon l'idée des dirigeants ukrainiens, l'attaque aurait dû attirer à nouveau l'attention de l'opinion publique mondiale sur lui.
used heavily. The issue with deepfake is that because all of us have psychological biases, but thousands of them, there is a structural symmetry between truth and lies. Lies spread much faster and reach a much wider audience than truth. And now we have developed the technology to basically stimulate this. 2 years ago, experiment was conducted where we showed people pictures that were true of people as well as deep fake and asked them in which one you have more face. And now human beings have more face into deep fakes. That study did not attract a lot of attention and it should, because this was last year. And it was patients that were asked to rate the quality of medical advice received by doctors, physicians, and chatbots. On the quality, the chatbots scored better. And you could say, okay, that's normal because chatbots have access to all the medical information that is out there on the web. But then they also measured empathy. And empathy, they also did as much better than physician. And what is empathy? Is the ability to relate to other human beings. So if that study is corroborated by further studies in the future, that means that we have reached a point where machines are better to relate to human beings than human beings. That should rings better for you because that opens completely new types of disinformation technique. ChatGPT then has been used to pass a creativity test that has been passed for decades by human beings, and they now reach the first top percentile in terms of creativity. As was mentioned, we are in an election year where you'll see half of the world population going to polls. More and more, you have to get used of having deep fakes of various nature, all right? The one on the left, for instance, here, think about that. This could be very destabilizing for a political campaign. It was reported a few weeks ago that a robocall impersonating President Biden's voice were conducted during the primary in the United States. That picture was tweeted last May on Bloomberg, on Twitter, and by a Bloomberg feed. Bloomberg feed does not exist. Bloomberg does exist. It's a press agency. This picture is a deep fake of an explosion near the Pentagon. That led to a loss of 30 points on an S&P 500. It's a multi-billion market. So here you have a few billions of dollars that have been wiped out of nothing. You might have seen these pictures regarding the Gaza war. Protesters have shared this picture. Libération, a French newspaper, put it on its front page. It was tweeted and retweeted. Now, if you look at this picture, it's a deep fake. This baby does not exist, has been synthetically generated by an algorithm. If you don't believe me, Samantha Power, a former US ambassador to the US, already tweeted this picture almost a year ago when there were earthquakes in Syria and Turkey. The pace at which, if you can just click on that, of which this technology is evolving is truly exponential. That was, if you want, generative AI videos that were generated a year ago. You may have heard now that OpenAI has developed a new algorithm called Sora, and you'll see in a second what Sora is able to do. This is now where we are. You just put a prompt, a sentence, and you get an algorithm that basically creates a movie. So generative AI can do an entire press agency devoted to countering disinformation for now $400. Each of us can basically be Reuters or AP and broadcast any message that you want. As soon as you have this kind of growth, you have development. And by March of last year, there is a second version of ChatGPT and then an autonomous agent, which is basically an algorithm that is able to just give a prompt and it understands the prompt, the objective, and go for it. Just a few days after autonomous agents were created, someone inputted, we want to destroy humanity. So what happened? Chaos GPT was invented, if you want. And the first task was to monitor and understand what is the best way to kill humanity is through nuclear weapon, but as a chatbot is difficult to have access to nuclear weapons. So what is the second best way is to create chaos in society. How? For this information. And suddenly you have this autonomous agent that started to create Twitter accounts and diffuse this information. Obviously, generative AI can actually also code malware. It could actually find new molecules that are very close to the most lethal chemical weapons, or it can also be used, this is an experiment that was conducted last year, to find new pathogens that could lead to the development of new biological weapon. In that case here, ChatGPT in 1 hour managed to find 4 new pathogens. All right. So to finish, obviously, it's not just in the cyber domain. You can meet robotics to that, and you end up with what we call swarm that have been used quite heavily in Russia. This is 2 pictures of pictures of Ukraine in February and in November. You can see that lights have been switched off. This was in Nagorno-Karabakh. This is ideological conditions. Blown up. This technology diffuses to non-state actors, and obviously, Mr. Rapporteur, Madam Rapporteur mentioned autonomous weapon system. This is something that is on the horizon. To finish with, what we are starting to witness is this. You might have seen that Apple has released its Apple Vision Pro, that is augmented virtual reality that is able to track your eye movement. Now you add to this some sensor that can read your emotional states, and we're already there. And now you have new data that can basically read your emotional states. And that basically you open the way to cognitive warfare. It's not just about pushing information, it's controlling exactly what you will do. Experiments were conducted 4 years ago by patient. You put people into functional MRI and an algorithm is trying to read your mind. That was 4 years ago. Now with ChatGPT and generative AI, this is what we have. We have entered the era of mind reading. The next step is the era of mind writing. Neuralink has issued a statement at the end of January. The Merck's company, they managed to successfully achieve the first human trial of brain-computer interface, the ability to connect your brain with the machine. And so obviously, this is where we are. We all have this thing called mobile phones or computers. Increasingly, we'll have enhanced reality. Get ready to plug your brain to the machine, and that is opening a complete new type of risk. If you want to read more about it, you can do it. To finish with this, what we're witnessing is a transformation that probably we haven't yet witnessed in the history of humanity, because we are building the blocks to create something that will actually transcend Homo sapiens. And probably this will be growing interaction between the machine and the brain. Happy to answer your questions later. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, dear professor, for your really thought-provoking presentation. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to listen to you because it was really a very interesting presentation, but I hope that you will share your presentation with our International Secretariat for further maybe analysis. But I think it was really good and very interesting for us to know how the situation in that area. And of course, looking forward to continuing our cooperation in the future. Dear colleagues, it is about, we have, 30 minutes left, but we have another one more presentation. I would appreciate if Madame Isabel Klaus will just limit in maybe 5 minutes, because after that we have about 20 speaker lists. But I do appreciate that you made such a big distance to come to Vienna to make a presentation here. I mean, I was just praising Marco that thank you for gathering such a big, such a professional experts to share their views with us. It is really, really very much appreciated. So, Madame Isabel Klaus, you are co-founder and the managing director of Thinkers.ai, a company that it is team of developers and data scientists focuses on technological developments based on machine learning. Dr. Klaus is also a university lecturer, author of many books and publications on cybersecurity and AI, and is an active and leading figure in the entrepreneurs community in Europe and beyond. Dear Ms. Klaus, thanks for taking the time again and joining us in person. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. And good afternoon from my side. My name is Isabel Klaus and I'm co-founder of Thinkers.ai. And before I was member of the co-founders team of the European market leader for cybersecurity incident detection, a company we sold to a German corporate and which still is heavily involved in securing large critical infrastructures. The reason why I may speak to you today is the combination of both worlds, AI and cybersecurity in practice, a field in which I worked for about 12 years now, and I thank the organizers for the invitation. The fundamental concept of Thinkers.ai is that we have so much data around us, and as humans, we are unable to cope with it. On the other hand, we urgently require the relevant information out of this data, be it for security, business, or politics. So this is why we started to build up a technology developed in Europe that has one goal: to serve as humans and to make data work for us and not the other way around. The wave of generative AI does not ease the problem of data and information overload. It is actually the contrary. Producing more data within seconds and milliseconds is one of its best abilities. Just last night, the CEO of OpenAI stated that very soon there will be more AI-produced content around us than human-written content. In the context of cybersecurity and physical security, this creates, unfortunately, a wave of new problems. We face quite new threats which are enabled by generative AI. One that is already here was described before. It is the spreading of disinformation in a very fast and broad way. This security problem is, in my view, highly underestimated today. It is the potential to cause chaos within minutes at any place in the world, and it may cause chaos in any possible context, which makes it extremely difficult to combat. On top of this, many countries have a number of strategic disadvantages to cope with this problem. Firstly, there is not much experience with the problem. There are rarely experts available, and there is no intense institutionalized educational program or training available. In cybersecurity, we are much more ahead to cope with threats. Experts are trained, and more people are educated or at least sensitized, and still large-scale incidents occur day by day. In comparison, the countermeasures for disinformation are just in its beginnings. Not only countermeasures are rare, the problem is also that many countries do not have first-hand access to necessary data, lack a significant amount of data analytics competencies, and an infrastructure that would be ready to cope with massive amounts of data. For instance, there are 4 large-scale web data collectors in the world: Google and Microsoft in the US, Baidu in China, and Yandex in Russia. Europe is missing in this list, and so is sovereign web data access. Building up competencies and handling such amount of data is not something that is built up overnight. We face all this in a time of incomparable speed of technological innovation and in the time of a global race for AI innovation and leadership. At the same time, we also face the problem of existing regulation in many countries, which limits the scope of data, which especially governmental organizations may analyze and store. Therewith, we limit the basis that is needed to combat AI threats. So overall, I conclude that the impact of AI threats needs to be taken very serious and is a problem of now, not later. Generative AI grows threats in cybersecurity and on top enables new threats. Both grow in high speed. On the contrary, regulation processes move much slower. Regulation is not globally agreed, and moreover, existing regulation limits data analysis and storage of data, which partly makes preparation for and early detection of emergencies impossible. What I see far behind in practice is preparedness and readiness to cope with generative AI in the context of security. There are initiatives moving forward and a number of organizations are working on the topic. However, the resources dedicated to the topic need to be significantly increased in the short term. One organization that focuses on the topic is the European Center of Excellence for Countering Hybrid Threats. And an interesting analysis is their research report number 11. It analyzes the experiences and measures regarding disinformation in Ukraine since 2022. 5 lessons were derived, which I would like to quote. Lesson number 1, laying a solid foundation is fundamental. A monitoring system so extensive that it generates overlap is a must. Rapid detection, action, and reaction are necessary conditions for successfully countering disinformation campaigns. Lesson number 2, numbers are crucial. Human resources, financial resources, the number of different countermeasures, and the various actors implementing them, or the repetition of key narratives from as many speakers as possible is crucial. Lesson number 3, the overlap between various monitoring and countermeasures is encouraged, not avoided. More actors working on the same topic means more reliable output, faster responses, and safeguards against the failure of one of them. Lesson number 4, no government in the world can tackle the problem of disinformation alone. Civil society is absolutely crucial. Ukraine has shown how an active and energetic civil society protected the information space even before the government entered. Lesson number 5, preparation is essential. It is important to prepare contingency plans, ensure that the relevant teams are ready to act and have the crisis messaging and backup channels prepared. However, also adaptability is key. To conclude, AI has severe impact on security in various forms, and this is a problem of now, not later. It is necessary to prepare and to get ready, not only on the level of an individual organization or country, but as a society. A giant task in my eyes, but without an alternative. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Klaas, for your availability and for your interesting presentation. As I said before, unfortunately, we have a time limit, but of course, as I said before at the beginning of our meeting, that we will continue this important discussion in Lisbon next May. And of course, we will have more time. Maybe we will have, the entire day dedicated to this important topic. Again, thank you very much. And now I want to ask, I have a bad news, dear colleagues, for you, because first I have announced 2 minutes to each speaker, but I'm compelled to reduce from 2 to 1.5 minutes, about a half minute for each speaker. I really apologize for that because at 6 p.m., our interpreters
have to leave this audience, and if, of course, they continue for about maybe 5 or 10 minutes, it will be very much appreciated. If not, we can maybe continue about maybe for about maximum 5 or 10 minutes without any interpretation. If it is okay, so we can continue now. Thank you again, dear guest speakers. Now I want to give the floor to first speaker in my list, who is Mr. Artur Gerasimov from Ukraine, and he will be followed by Ms. Dora of Hungary. Artur, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Azai. First of all, do you know what I like in our committee? We're always on the edge. We always keep in leadership. Under Nilsen Salmon, chairing the committee, we were one of the first who started really deeply to discuss Arctic issues and climate change issues. After, remember, during the COVID, we were the first who discovered the deep connection between quality of the air and the COVID-19 issues under Doris Barnett chairmanship. Now, microplastic, we were one of the first. Now, AI, I really appreciated Kazai and Gudrun, all your efforts in AI. It's extremely serious, colleagues, extremely serious. And now, thank you very much, Dr. Klaus, because you mentioned lessons from Ukrainian history, and even not history, from Ukrainian present days activities. Why I'm very worried? Because unfortunately, AI totally and very hugely is now used for hybrid war, let's say by bad guys. And there are two main things. First one, of course, disinformation and deep fakes, as Dr. Klaus and other colleagues told. Thank you very much for our experts today. You're brilliant. They and Microsoft and Geneva Center. But the second point, direct use of AI in the military issues. Because, for example, Russians now, they're learning quickly, and they're using now the swarm of drones carried by AI. And this is a very, very serious thing. That's why, thank you very much for discussing it, and let's continue. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Artur. Now, next speaker, Ms. Dora of Hungary. To be ready, Mr. David Wells of Canada. Madam Dora, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, honorable representatives. As new technologies are developing at an explosive rate, so are the potential threats they pose, which can be increasingly dangerous to our freedom. Digitalization and artificial intelligence can easily take control of individuals' lives without even developers being aware of the processes by which the systems they created make decisions. Where are the public guarantees to protect people's privacy and freedom? The interaction of artificial intelligence and algorithms are already threatening to replace human labor. My country, Hungary, has the highest exposure to these risks among OECD member countries, with more than 36% of jobs at risk from new technologies. Last year, the US company Amazon logged out a customer from his smart home after a delivery driver labeled him a racist. The facial recognition system at the US chain Macy's incorrectly identified an innocent man as a robber who was arrested and later abused in prison. New technological tools are an opportunity for governments and multinational corporations to expand their control over people's daily lives. The interconnection of large databases have opened up the possibility of a global digital dictatorship, which must be prevented at all costs. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Now I want to give the floor to Mr. David Wells of Canada, to be read by, to be followed by Mr. Tom Cronin of Iceland. Mr. Wells, you have the floor.
Thank you, colleagues. The emergence of
Ireland, not Iceland. Sorry.
Thank you, colleagues. The emergence of AI technologies in everyday applications, such as search engines, image and text generators, transportation, healthcare, and recommendation algorithms and streaming platforms has shown the wide range of possibilities that AI offers. AI technology has the potential to benefit society in many areas. In medicine, for example, AI technologies that help better diagnose and treat health issues. According to the European Parliament's think tank, AI technologies could result in a 37% increase in labor productivity by 2035 and could help reduce global greenhouse gas emissions by up to 4% in 2030.
AI can also help reduce costs and improve the delivery of public services in domains like public transportation, education, energy, and waste management. Of course, the emergence of AI technologies also raises concerns. The development of autonomous weapons, cyber capabilities, and the integration of AI into combat systems has the potential to change the conflict landscape. AI can enhance surveillance and intelligence technologies such as facial recognition that can be used by authoritarian regimes to curtail political freedoms or target certain communities. In fact, we have already seen this. Colleagues, it's crucial that we as parliamentarians stay informed of the opportunities and risks associated with the development of new AI technologies. Forums such as the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly give us that unique opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Clonan. As Mr. Vice, sorry. Now I want to give the floor to Mr. Tom Clonan of Ireland, to be followed by Mr. Ludovic Hay of France. Mr. Clonan, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. In relation to artificial intelligence, we know that recommendation algorithms can target children, can groom them online, leading to self-harm, suicide. We know about disinformation and misinformation campaigns. And we know that conflicts drive screen time and revenue. Artificial intelligence has no moral agency. It has no self-consciousness. So the reason why these negative outcomes are happening is because people like us are making decisions, human beings. And so I think as we as legislators, we have to assert control over the artificial intelligence environment, and we have to be ethical. Like our Greek friends, Aristotle, Plato, all of the history of moral philosophy, the thing that makes us human is the fact that we have moral agency. The thing that makes us human is the fact that we can do something altruistic. It separates us from all other species. Artificial intelligence, particularly in the area of weaponization, I have to say, as a former soldier with experience and participation in true conflicts in Ireland, in the Middle East, in the former Yugoslavia, I'm very concerned about the use of artificial intelligence in weapons. Automation is fine. Increasing precision and accuracy is fine. But autonomous weapon systems should be forbidden. They should be outlawed. And to use an autonomous weapon system should be an international war crime. And I would ask you for your support in that. Using autonomous weapons to take human life is deeply unethical and is reprehensible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I want to give the floor to Mr. Ludovic Hay from France to be ready. Mr. Georgios Nikitias of Greece. Mr. Hay, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur Ludovic Hay a dû quitter la séance il y a quelques minutes et je vais me permettre de lire son intervention en manifestant un peu notre mécontentement au niveau de la France sur le fait qu'on réduise toujours l'intervention des députés qui viennent de toute l'Europe et même de plus loin au profit de présentations qui, elles, ont droit à toutes les minutes qu'ils veulent. Donc l'OSCE constitue aujourd'hui une des seules arènes internationales qui puisse mettre l'accent sur les perspectives et le potentiel considérable comme la diplomatie économique dans des domaines d'avenir importants tels que la technologie médicale, la technologie de l'hydrogène, la fourniture d'énergie, les nanotechnologies et l'intelligence artificielle. Pour ce qui est de l'intelligence artificielle, l'OSCE doit bien être conscient des opportunités qu'offre cette nouvelle technologie et doit en cela être vigilant sur 3 points qui me semblent fondamentaux. Celui de la formation tout d'abord. Ce fut une demande formulée à Vancouver que celle d'offrir aux parlements nationaux et tous les parlementaires une sensibilisation voire une formation dans le domaine du codage informatique et de l'intelligence artificielle afin que les membres du Parlement soient suffisamment préparés pour exercer un contrôle démocratique sur les systèmes de communication modernes. Celui de la défense ensuite, domaine dans lequel le développement de l'IA a pour objectif d'accroître significativement l'autonomie stratégique, la supériorité opérationnelle et la technologie de nos armées. Enfin, celui de l'information de l'information. Dans ce domaine également, il est urgent de se saisir de cette question tant politiquement que financièrement, avec notamment le soutien de 2 projets sur la protection des journalistes en ligne et les conséquences de l'intelligence artificielle sur la liberté d'expression. Voilà, chers collègues, quelques axes de travail concrets sur lesquels il est essentiel de travailler ensemble. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Mr. Lakab. As far as I understood, you took the floor on behalf of the Ludovic Hay, but you also, your name also is in the list. He will be coming? Okay. Thank you. Now, Mr. Georgios Nikitadis
Thank you, Mr. President.
And
Your colleagues, it's time for us to act instead of strict
Secure Sanchez for Portugal.
regulatory framework for the development and operation of AI. In this direction, it is necessary to ensure and act first the democratization of artificial intelligence, transparency, accountability, and access to relevant privileges for the many and not just for the few. Second, a strong regulatory framework, a continuous consultation both between countries and within them with all concerned parties, because what we legislate today may become tomorrow outdated or in 1-2 years as a result of further technological developments. Third, a map of obligations and an international agreement between our countries on the limits we will allow the artificial intelligence to have. Concluding, let me give you the information that in my country, my party, PASOK, the Socialist Party, has made great efforts to enhance and facilitate the democratic participation of citizens and party members through the use of digital platforms as part of this comprehensive digital peace plan, which adopts a progressive stand towards advanced digital tools, including AI, while also advocating for the proper regulation for the benefit of all. Closing, I have to say that from the speakers, I really became afraid of what might happen with AI. Let's stand, we are responsible. It is not Microsoft, it is not any other company. It is us who have the responsibility for protection and security from AI at the future. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now I want to give the floor to Mr. George Sergio Sanchez for Portugal, to be followed by Ms. Maribel Lopez Gutar of Andorra. So, dear George, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank the chairman of this committee, our colleague Azai Guyev, for the extraordinary work he's doing on this mandate. I did so at the last meeting I attended in the Parliamentary Assembly of Roche, and I hope that our parliamentary organization will be able to strengthen its mechanisms for dialogue and the participation of all members. This action of striving to sit down at the same table in dialogue is the guarantee that our work will be continued to be useful for our peoples. At the same time, I would like to stress the need to contribute to a greater cooperation on two issues that are essential for the security and defense of our countries. On one hand, in energy, the commitment to renewable energy as only way to ensure the fight against climate change and to ensure energy security free from blackmail and threats. The new challenges of artificial intelligence, it seems equally important to us to define a common strategy which in its definition should involve universities and academy. We need to see AI as an opportunity and not a threat. This will make it is possible to build the best cooperation solutions. Let us hope that outcome of the forthcoming conference in Lisbon in May will contribute to this objective. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear George, dear Portuguese delegations and friends. We are looking forward to seeing you or to coming to you in Lisbon and to continue these important discussions. So thank you for this initiative. Dear colleagues, now I want to give the floor to our next speaker, who is Ms. Maribel Lopez Guiltrot. Sorry for wrong pronunciation if I did, from Andorra, to be followed by Ms. Lida Ranvej Sigurkirsdottir from Iceland. Sorry again for my wrong pronunciation. So, Madam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Dear colleagues, with the exponential development of new technologies, there is always the surge of new opportunities in many areas, but also the arise of threats and risks. Artificial intelligence has posed the biggest, most impactful evolution of the recent times. And while there is no doubt that it can be beneficial in many ways, if used responsibly, we need to be aware of the risks stemming from it, such as manipulation of content, misinformation, deep fakes, identity supplantation, privacy violations, fraud, or advanced cyber attacks. With these risks stated, a clear need of cooperation between countries arises. OSCE EPA is a powerful platform to lead the way in this sense in order to preserve human rights, privacy, transparency, and ethical and truthful use of information. The need of cooperation between OSCE EPA countries in these circumstances is crucial, since the nature of this technology and its capabilities make it hard to predict the impact and reach of any misuse. This framework of cooperation needs to be broad, well established, yet also flexible in order to encompass all the many different areas of society that could be negatively impacted by the misuse of artificial intelligence. It is also necessary that OSCE EPA countries provide the resources to empower and educate the population about the risks of artificial intelligence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, next speaker, Ms. Leah Ranovich Sigurðardóttir, sorry, I'm very sorry for that, from Iceland, and then she will be followed by Ms. Christina Telman of Romania. Please, madam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Now, AI has gotten big in past few years, which is something I think we all expected, but this is happening really fast. AI will have enormous effect on our lives, both good and bad. And I think it's of greater interest for us here to focus on the negative effects and what we can do to minimize them. For example, personal data collection can be used to calculate how to best affect a person's opinion. We must be mindful of the possible implications that this type of manipulation can have for democracy. We are under a constant surveillance, and we have to be aware of possible implications of that. We need to discuss these different forms of violence, the misuse of personal information, and ethical use of AI, and whether these pictures and videos that we've seen should be illegal. We will have new problems regarding AI every week for the next few years, and we need to make sure that we can react quickly and adapt our legislation for this new reality. That said, AI can also be our best tool in fighting inequality worldwide, so we must be careful that our legislation does not hinder innovation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And now I announce Madam Christian Telman, our next speaker. She will be followed by Mr. Halis Dalakılıç of Turkey.
Thank you very much.
You have the floor.
After.
Okay.
Thank you very much. AI has become a hot topic, generating heated debates among technology experts, policymakers, and the general public. As AI strengthens its presence in various sectors, the question of its regulation becomes more and more pressing. Some argue that the regulations are essential to ensure safety and fairness, while others argue that they can inhibit innovation and progress. Romania is among the first countries which regulates this phenomenon by promoting Romania's artificial intelligence strategy, which respects both the European provisions of the AI Act and the recommendations of the companies from the field. Romania's deep concern on the profound impact on society from fake news that can influence elections to compromising individual reputation about the deep fake phenomenon led to the promoting of the law on the responsible use of technology in the context of the deep fake phenomenon. Dear colleagues, the challenge is not only to make regulations without restricting innovation, but also to keep up with an ever-changing field where regulations can quickly become outdated. This is what we have to reflect on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now I want to ask Mr. Halis Dalkılıç to take the floor. He will be followed by Mr. Pascal Lecamp of France.
Sayın Başkan, değerli delegeler, ben de sizleri saygıyla selamlıyorum. Hayatımızın her alanında nüfuz eden yapay zekanın bugün dünya sosyoekonomik dönüşümünün önemli bir katalizörü haline geldiğini görüyoruz. İnsanlığın ilerlemesi için benzeri görülmemiş fırsatlar sunan yapay zeka aynı zamanda ciddi risklerle beraberinde getiriyor. Yapay zeka sürdürülebilir kalkınmayı, büyümeyi, desteklemeyi önemli bir amaç haline getirirken ülkeler içindeki ve arasındaki ekonomik gelişmişlik farkındalıklarını da derinleştirme riskini barındırıyor. Bizler bu doğrultuda Türkiye olarak insan hakları, demokratik değerler ve temel özgürlükleri korurken yapay zekanın gelişiminin teşvik edilmesini vurgulayan 2020-2025 yıllarını kapsayan ulusal yapay zeka stratejisini yayınladık. Sayın Başkan, tabii vakit çok ilerledi. Yapay zeka konusunda çok verimli sunumlar dinledik değerli katılımcılardan. Sizlerin de başarılı yönetiminiz için çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Sabahki genel kurulun açılış oturumunda birkaç konu oldu. Sadece 15-20 saniye duygularımı paylaşıp bitireceğim. Tabii Rusya-Ukrayna arasındaki maalesef insanlık dramı yaşanıyor. Oradaki savaşın bir an önce bitirmesi ve kalıcı bir ateşkese dönüşmesi için Türkiye olarak biz üzerimize düşeni yapıyoruz ve AGİT üye ülkelerine bu konuda katkı vermelerini istiyoruz ve bir an önce bu savaşın son bulması lazım. Aynı zamanda 130 günü aşkın İsrail'in Gazze'ye saldırıları devam ediyor. Yaklaşık 30 bin genç, çocuk, kadın katledildi. Dolayısıyla İsrail ve Gazze'deki bu korkunç sistematik katliamın bir an önce durması gerekiyor. Bunu soykırım olarak görüyoruz ve insanlık içinde bir dram olarak görüyoruz. Dolayısıyla AGİT ülkelerinin güvenliğini konuştuğumuz bu dönemde AGİT ülkelerimizin de tamamının pozisyon alarak bu dramın bir an önce sona erdirilmesi ve kalıcı bir ateşkese ve barışa dönmesi gerektiği temennisiyle sizleri saygıyla selamlıyorum.
Thank you. Teşekkürler. Now I want to give the floor to Mr. Pascal Lecamp of France. He will be followed by Mr. Michele Muratol of San Marino. Mr. Pascal, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, chers collègues. Le thème du débat de notre commission aujourd'hui est au centre des préoccupations et thématiques des trois commissions. Tant l'intelligence artificielle concerne évidemment la technologie, mais aussi la sécurité, la défense et bien sûr les droits et libertés individuelles. Médecine, industrie, défense, sciences, éducation, sport, loisirs, l'IA s'apprête à modifier en profondeur tous les aspects ou presque de notre vie. Face à ce défi technologique majeur du XXIe siècle, il appartient aux politiques de fournir le cadre législatif sécurisé qui rassure les citoyens et encourage les entrepreneurs. Je souhaiterais partager avec vous l'expérience française avec l'IA dans le domaine de la défense, capitale aujourd'hui et qui le sera de plus en plus demain. Raison pour laquelle le ministère des Armées français a créé dès juillet 2019 une cellule de coordination de l'intelligence artificielle de défense chargée de piloter les travaux du ministère en matière d'IA. D'ici 2025, plus de 100 millions d'euros par an y seront consacrés et plus de 200 experts ont été recrutés. En effet, les administrations militaires doivent susciter et soutenir l'innovation et la recherche sur des sujets d'intérêt défense susceptibles d'être utilisables par les armées en coopérant avec les entreprises privées comme avec d'autres États. Par ailleurs, la France souhaite être un modèle d'utilisation maîtrisée de l'IA, tant son application au domaine de la défense est critique. Et j'insisterai surtout sur ce point, sur le fait que l'utilisation de l'IA suppose une exigence éthique élevée. Enfin, la coopération entre États est tout à fait primordiale. À cet égard, on peut saluer l'adoption par l'Union européenne le 2 février dernier de l'AI Act, dont le commissaire au marché intérieur Thierry Breton est l'un des ardents défenseurs. Celui-ci vise à garantir que les systèmes et modèles d'IA commercialisés au sein de l'Union européenne soient utilisés de manière éthique, sûre et respectueuse des droits fondamentaux de l'UE. Ce n'est qu'un premier pas et j'en appelle à une coopération industrielle accrue en matière d'IA afin notamment de fixer les barrières nécessaires à la bonne utilisation de cette technologie, comme le rappelaient les intervenants Ott, Rikli et Klaus tout à l'heure. En effet, concevoir dans un deuxième temps une agence sécurisée des algorithmes de l'IA ne pourra se faire sans penser, anticiper et prévoir ensemble son impact sur les comportements humains. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. Now I call Mr. Mumiko Lekovic of Montenegro. Sorry, I call now Mr. Michele Murato, Mikhail of San Marino. He will be followed by Mr. Mumkilo Lekovic of Montenegro. So, Michele, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, dear Azai. Thank you, kind speakers. The prosperity and the economic growth of countries in the OSCE space are closely linked to how data and new technologies will be used. Artificial intelligence can make a big difference in our lives, positively or negatively. Many of our country are already strong in digital industry and business-to-business applications with a high-quality infrastructure and a regulatory framework that protects privacy and freedom of expression. But is it truly an opportunity to become a global leader in the data economic and its application? There can be benefit for citizens, for businesses, for public services, but also for democracy. Data-driven verification, prevention of disinformation and cyber attacks, and access to quality information can certainly help strengthen democracy. But we have a duty not to underestimate the risk to the impact we could have. The results produced by artificial intelligence depend on how it is designed and whether or not it is willing to manipulate the data. The threat to democracy represented by artificial intelligence passes through information. It has already been accused of creating bubbles online, where content is presented based on content a user has interacted with in the past, rather than creating an open environment for multi-voiced, inclusive, and accessible debate. It can also be used to create fake but extremely realistic images, video, and audio, like deep fakes, which can be used to defraud, ruin reputation, and question trust in decision-making process. All this leads to the polarization of public debate and manipulation of election. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boroton. And now I want to give the floor to Mr. Momkilo Lekovic of Montenegro, and he will be followed by Ms. Federica Onore of Italy. Mr. Lekovic, you have the floor. Are you here? Yeah, please.
Microphone.
Microphone, please. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Artificial intelligence represents a significant technological breakthrough with a wide range of applications, but at the same time, it carries serious security implications, and Montenegro is no exception. While AI increasingly integrated into various spheres of society, from the economy to healthcare, the question arises of how to deal with potential risks. One of the key aspects is data security. With AI use a large amount of sensitive information, which are available and vulnerable to abuse. What we have noticed in our country is that Montenegro must adapt its legislation in order to adequately regulate the collection, storage, and use of data in order to protect the privacy of citizens. Mass cyber attacks on the information network of the government of Montenegro began in August 2022, so access to the government website and emails, as well as other institutions, such as prosecutor office and cards. One part of the data was completely lost. This attack showed and proved that we need a much higher level of protection. In conclusion, although artificial intelligence is undeniably a technical advice, Montenegro, Europe, and world must carefully balance economic benefits and security challenges. I believe that in our country, Europe and world as well, and Europe and world, there is enough awareness and intelligence to use this type of technological progress exclusively for the benefit of all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now I want to give the floor to Ms. Federica Onore. She will be followed by our last speaker, Mr. Christos Senekis of Cyprus. Madam Onore, you have the floor.
Thank you, President, and thank you to all speakers for the relevant contribution. So in this special debate we are carrying on today on the security implications of artificial intelligence, I would like to touch upon briefly on the link between artificial intelligence, terrorism,
and youth, which is a challenge, a multifaceted one, affecting the future of our OSCE region as a whole. And as we had the opportunity to say already during the fourth counterterrorism coordination meeting, which took place here in Vienna last October, the potential benefits of AI are undeniable, potential benefits for humanity, of course, and yet research on the malicious use of AI is still in its infancy. So why I say this, technological advances, including AI, may offer, in fact, opportunities to terrorists, for example, to train together in augmented reality environments. AI can enhance also online recruitment and engagement with the use of video manipulation, as we also saw during the speakers' contributions, and AI-assisted deepfake techniques for marketing extremists. And so there is an actor which can be particularly fragile and vulnerable in this setting, which is the youth, the young people. So in light to all this, I personally agree very much on the fact that this topic should be addressed at national and international level. And I think that ad hoc committee here within the OSCE is particularly relevant. And I would like to ask the speakers their opinion on the legislative path to be followed in order to better regulate this field at a global level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Memori. Now I want to give the floor to our last speaker, Mr. Christos Tsenekis of Cyprus. Christos, please, you have the floor. Microphone. Can you turn on, switch on?
Dear colleagues, we are already using AI and it has a potential to transform every aspect of our lives, from healthcare to education, from transportation to entertainment, from business to governance. AI makes it possible for law enforcement to develop tools to counter terrorism and organized crime. It's obvious that the impact of AI will be much more profound than the impact of other technological developments. AI will have the transformative effect of electricity, a technology that broadly changes the shape of our economies. While AI is very promising, on the other hand, we can end up with powerful AI models in the hands of malicious actors, such as hackers, terrorists, or rogue states that seek to compromise, manipulate, or sabotage systems, data, or infrastructure. And we already seen AI being used to commit fraud and even to create child sexual abuse material. Therefore, we need to act to create robust legal frameworks so that our citizens feel secure as our everyday life is impacted and transformed by these new tools. Although we witness every day the advent of new AI tools, we are only at the beginning of this revolution. Coordinating our responses will be the only way to reap the benefits while addressing serious challenges. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, dear colleagues, dear friends. It was very interesting debate. Although I didn't interrupt anyone because I knew that our correspondent to speak and to make some conclusion. But as I said before, we have a chance to discuss, to continue our discussion in Portugal next May. And of course, I hope that you will be able to join this important event. But before concluding, of course, I want to ask our distinguished guest speaker for their very short intervention, if they have something to share or to respond. And afterwards, we will finish. So I will start first from Nicholas. You want to take first? Then we go to other speakers. Please, Nicholas, you have the floor. Very short, please, 1 minute.
Thank you for your reflections, thoughts, and comments. Many of you outlined the work that we have ahead of us around AI, and I agree with you. Allow me to add that this is a true multi-stakeholder task. We need to work on this collectively. We will not succeed if we work in silos. Government, civil society, and industry need to work on this together. We succeed together or we fail together. We at Microsoft take our responsibility very seriously and are committed to doing our part in making sure that the benefits and opportunities of AI outweigh the risks and challenges. Allow me to close by outlining why we at Microsoft label our AI services as co-pilot, because our AI capabilities are designed to have the user in the driver's seat. You have the control, the power, and the agency of the technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. Dr. Rickley, 1 minute, please.
Sure. Thank you very much. So I completely concur to what my colleague just said, that what we are facing here is a global common. It's your task to come up with a governance system that will magnify the benefits of this technology while reducing the potential for harm deriving from this technology. For that, you are facing a number of challenges. One is the pace at which this technology evolves, and that requires from you to invest into foresight capabilities. It's not because something doesn't exist today that it will not exist in 10 years. So you have to think outside the box, and you have to respond very quickly. Also, you have to bear in mind that these technologies are so powerful that they will, and they are already influencing power politics. Science and technology is the first dimension of international power in the 21st century. So you have to be mindful that behind that, behind your the governance that you're setting in place, there will be strong geopolitical rivalry to try to take the lead in this field. And you have to be mindful of this. I shall stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now, Dr. Klaus, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I take with me that the opportunities and challenges are clear. However, the regulatory work within the next weeks and months, not years, would be very important to reflect especially the speed of AI. This means that know-how of regulators must be very high, and sessions like this today are very important. Furthermore, trustful and efficient cooperation is central, and investment in sovereign data access and technology needs to be increased, especially in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you indeed, dear colleagues, dear guest speakers, dear ladies and gentlemen. Let me once more thank all of you for the availability, particularly for our speakers who came and joined us today, and also, of course, for all colleagues who took the floor and to contribute a lot to the discussions. As I said, we are looking forward to continuing these discussions in upcoming months. Of course, my particular thanks go to our interpreters who were with us for about extra 50 minutes. We really appreciate. And of course, I finally want to again thank Marco, other colleagues, Daria, Marita, and of course our rapporteurs, good friend Gudrun, and of course my good friend Arthur. We are, as a member of the bureau, are doing together everything, discussing, and we are trying to provide the collegiality of the decision-making processes. I'm very happy that we work as a single team. Of course, I want to thank also Ben, our procedural advisor, for his great assistance, and looking forward to see you, as I said, in May. If not, of course, in Bucharest in our annual session. Thank you very much. I now declare the meeting closed.